KC, nice work. You're up first this morning. Let's start off the week there. Nothing on the whiteboard, Patrick. Disappointed.
Draft's over.
From first sound of it, you might be having to snap Patrick Perret after we're out of a post-draft little slump here. Everything going to be okay? I just asked him why there's nothing on the whiteboard. He just said, draft's over.
Yeah, I'm bummed. I am bummed.
All right. But wait a second. This is like coming in after the Super Bowl and saying you're bummed, isn't it? And as opposed to saying, hey, man, great time over the weekend. Really like watching that game. Can we focus on that part? What'd you think of the draft overall?
Well, I don't know. I think I go into every draft thinking that Washington's going to get 10 players that are going to make us a Super Bowl contender immediately. I don't think what we did over the weekend makes us the Super Bowl favorites, unfortunately. But, I mean, I liked our class. I like some of the players we got. But, you know, I kind of go through it with the draft day scenario, the movie draft day scenario, and run that through my head. Like, yeah, we're going to get a franchise quarterback in the 5th round, and we're going to get this and that. And yeah, I don't think it came out that way. It did for the Browns. But, you know, anybody but the Browns, I think.
The Browns in the movie you're talking about, right?
No, the Browns in the NFL.
This past weekend?
Oh, yeah. They won the draft. The Browns won the draft.
Interesting. Please make the case.
They were just so smart in their value. I mean, every pick just made so much sense. Like, just being smart and getting Greg Newsome in the first round, late in the first round, was what pick was that? 26. Very smart. And then Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, the linebacker from Notre Dame that everyone was stunned by. Everyone had in the first round, but clearly a bunch of NFL teams just don't have a scheme fit for him. The Browns are one of the teams that did, and they traded up to jump to make sure they got him in the second round, targeted their player. So they got 2 high-end first-round talents in their first 2 picks, and then just went like awesome upside or specific need later. Like Anthony Schwartz from Auburn, the fastest player in America, is an Olympic caliber track runner. Everyone knows how fast he is, but he's just not that. He doesn't have any like football skill to his game, like doesn't know what he's doing with his hands, and he's not physical whatsoever. So, I mean, that's a perfect piece to mold. James Hudson, giant left tackle for Cincinnati, who the Browns offensive line is the best in the league, but he's a perfect person to develop and have for depth. Tommy Togiai, great run stopper from Ohio State, fills a very specific need. Richard LeCounte, safety from Georgia, tons of experience, going to be a great depth piece. And Demetri Felton, a running back from UCLA, who can play wide receiver and running back. Like they just crushed it. And they got Marvin Wilson, the former 5-star, and people thought he was going to be a first-round pick out of Florida State at one point. They get him as an undrafted free agent too. Like it was a crazy haul. The Browns are, if Baker Mayfield plays well, the Browns are a legit Super Bowl contender, and they have the best. The Bucs have the best roster 1 to 22. The Browns have the best roster 1 to 35, 1 to 40, whatever you want to call it.
Interesting take from the draft. Why he's our NFL draft expert. I'm sure a lot of fans, I know a guy like Jess who hit us up on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line 5:45 this morning would love to hear what you have to say. He says, would love to hear what grade the expert Patrick would give my Carolina Panthers. He's also pumped about a good weekend there with his New York Yankees sweeping the Detroit Tigers and his boy Kyle Busch getting a win finally at Kansas. Off to a great Monday, he says. Are you going to ruin it for him, or are you going to give him some encouragement?
No, I'm not going to ruin it. I like the Panthers draft. There's a couple picks the Panthers made that I liked a lot. I mean, I really liked the Terrace Marshall pick in the end of round 2. Terrace Marshall is also a former 5-star, I believe. Big guy, really fast, really strong. Had the highest contested catch win rate in college football. He just apparently something popped up with his medical. I don't know what exactly it was that he's off, but he's a really good football player. If he'd be the third from Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore, I like that trio a lot. 2 offensive linemen, 1 in the 3rd round, 1 in the 5th round, or 1 in the 6th round. Brady Christensen from BYU is like 23, 24 years old. So, I mean, he's probably as physically developed as he's going to be right now. really good athlete, a little on the smaller side from like arm length perspective, and people were a little worried about him there. And also his level of competition was not high, especially last year when he played his best. So it's a difficult projection, but I mean, if he can start, then that would be huge. But you can never count on a third-round offensive tackle to start from day one. So also Deontay Brown is the largest human I've ever seen from Alabama, the guard from Alabama. He's 360 pounds, and he looks every bit of that 360 pounds. So again, maybe not going to start, but he was very productive on that Alabama offensive line. I like the obviously Shi Smith too. I don't know what he'll contribute from day one, but he should be able to catch a couple balls. There's no reason he can't be in a rotation there. Tommy Tremble from Notre Dame, I do like. He's very interesting. He's a really, really aggressive player. He's a tight end for Notre Dame. He was number 24 there, but he actually ended up playing mostly fullback and H-back, and that's kind of what his projection is in the NFL. He doesn't run tight end type routes well. He's just an elite blocker, like completely like blindside, Michael Irv blindside, like throwing guys off the field type stuff. So if there's, I don't know what Joe Brady's plan would be, but if it is to have a fullback or H-back as part of the offense, that will certainly be Tommy Tremble. That was pretty exciting.
Now, didn't the Carolina Panthers basically do what you wanted your Washington football team to do? Get a bunch of guys. They got 11 picks, I think, tied their franchise high going back to their very first draft when they were an expansion team. Traded down a couple of times, add more picks to the mix there.
Yeah, working the board. I do like it. They got, I mean, there's guys that Davion Nixon in the 5th round, trading down, being able to add a guy like that. He's a defensive tackle from Iowa who has a lot of upside, but didn't flash it very often. So if you get more production out of him, Chuba Hubbard, who's had injury problems and was not as good at Oklahoma State as he was his junior year, last year. You need this. Their team has a lot of holes. Like they filled some of them. They're going to have between, I got to look at the full list, but they've drafted at least 10 defensive players in the last 2 years. I don't know what the total count was. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I think they've drafted 11 defensive players in the last 2 years. I mean, that's a way to quickly turn around a defense. So yeah, I like it. I just think they need more guaranteed help on the offensive line. Like if Taylor Moton leaves next year, the offensive line is going to be in shambles once again. So that thing's barely held together right now, and it's going to be the Achilles heel for the Panthers this year. I can just feel that.
Now, what about from the Carolina Panthers perspective? The headline was that Matt Rule's wife texted him, and that's why they ended up getting Chuba Hubbard. You buying that? What do you think of that story?
I hope that's not true. I mean, yeah. Did she like the name Chuba? Did she like him? Did she meet him for some reason? Like, I don't understand that at all. But I hope that's not
Matt
true.
Rule did coach at Baylor not too long ago. Chuba Hubbard was at Oklahoma State there. I'm sure she was very familiar with some of
So
his
she just liked him when they played against each other?
right?
Yeah, I'm going to hopefully say that's not true. So I'm going with that. I did like the video of Matt Rule drafting the long snapper. Did you see that one?
Yeah, how about that? It was like even the long snapper was surprised, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, what pick was it? I got the tracker up here. It was
the 6th
it was
round.
only the 6th round too. So he was already getting calls made, trying to figure out where he was going to go as an undrafted free agent.
He's like, yeah, I'm trying to figure it out right now. He's like, no, I just drafted you, bro. He's like, what? Get out of here.
Yeah.
Hilarious. G just hits us up on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Move over. Todd and Mel. Patrick is coming. Now, I think that transitions us nicely to Mel Kiper Jr. Had kind of out of nowhere projected Ernest Jones, the Gamecock linebacker, to go in the 2nd round to the Los Angeles Rams in his mock draft. And you and everybody else is like, Mel Kiper Jr. And then Ernest Jones goes, he didn't go in the 2nd round, but he does go in the 3rd round, and he does go to the LA Rams. Also listen to that call that was made to Ernest Jones by the brass there. I think it's Les Snead is their GM, right? And then not Todd McShay. Then Sean McVay pops on and talks about how much Thomas Brown likes Ernest Jones. Yeah, Ernest Jones, a pretty steadfast guy. Just, yes, sir, we'll do it. We'll go ahead and get after it and the whole thing. But I need to hear your evaluation of that pick and your level of surprise. I think a lot of Gamecock fans might have been surprised to see Ernest Jones go in the third round on Friday, and then a couple of more guys selected on Saturday. You mentioned Shi Smith and Israel Mukuamu, the other one going to the Dallas Cowboys, I believe, another 6th round pick.
It's less surprising, I guess, it's hard to say, this guy is a 4th round pick or 5th round pick or 6th round pick, because at that point teams start just drafting for need in the 3rd round. I mean, it's easy to look at somebody and say, I'll be stunned. The biggest surprises to me are people that either didn't get drafted or didn't go in the 1st round, because those are kind of a different caliber. But once you get into the nitty-gritty of the draft, late day 2, early day 3, like, guys can kind of go anywhere. So it's definitely the high end of where I thought Ernest Jones would go, but the Rams have been really bad at linebacker for years. If they want somebody to come in and just be consistent there, I think Ernest Jones will be that guy. They're a 3-4. I think they're switching to a 3-4 defense. Now that Brandon Staley is gone and coaching the other LA team. He's the Los Angeles Chargers head coach now. So I think Joe Barry's going to come in and run a 3-4. I think that's a good role for him. He doesn't have to cover quite as much space. He can just kind of work one side of the field. Really smart player, tackles consistently. I think it's everything that Sean McVay and Joe Barry would want in that defense. So I do think the Thomas Brown part is interesting. Like, Thomas Brown didn't have that much time to watch Ernest Jones, but I guess when you're the running backs coach and you're trying to get one-on-ones against the linebackers or get keys on the linebackers or something like that, he noticed that Ernest Jones is just super consistent all the time, and it stood out to him as an opposing coach, I guess.
Well, it also shows me how much value the Rams put in Thomas Brown's opinion. I know they elevated him and promoted him to assistant head coach after last season, but just to mention that in the call like that and to see the obvious connection is an interesting piece of the puzzle there. So from the Gamecock perspective, it was 4 of the 5 guys who we thought would get drafted did get drafted. 2 of them, and J.C. Horn, and who were just talking about Ernest Jones, drafted a little higher than projected. Horn, number 8. We talked about that a bunch on Friday after the Thursday night selection to the Carolina Panthers. And then it was, I think, Shi Smith maybe dropping a little bit, but probably about where he was projected in the 6th round there. And also Israel Mukuamu, 6th round to the Dallas Cowboys. It was Cedarius Hutcherson, the offensive lineman, who was not drafted, who did end up signing with the Tampa Bay Bucks. Also, the Colorado State transfers, Colin Hill and Adam Prentice, going to get their chance in the NFL as well. Colin Hill with Cincinnati Bengals, Prentice going back to Colorado, where he was with Mike Bobo at Colorado State. Going to go try to catch on with the Denver Broncos as fullback, H-back, kind of like you were talking about earlier, special team guy. So 7 total off of this past team getting a chance in the NFL, 4 as official NFL draft picks. What do you make of the Gamecocks draft overall, Patrick?
Shi Smith, I think, definitely was a little bit lower, but he was, I think, everyone agreed that it was lower than expected, because he was the guy that when he got drafted, once you get to the end of the 6th round and 7th round, and picks come flying off the board, they don't really evaluate every pick on TV. Like, they'll, maybe if one guy stands out, they'll throw a little highlight package up. But Shi Smith seemed to be one of those that was unanimously, once he came off the board, everyone looked over like, oh, Shi Smith was still around. Interesting. That's a guy that clearly is going to contribute more than an average 6th rounder would. So he's not going to be one of the starting 3 receivers there, but he definitely has a chance to get plays like here and there. So, I mean, yeah, I think it's a good pick. It's good for him to stay home, and Joe Barry will figure out a role for him. Cedarius Hutcherson, it's interesting that he didn't get drafted. I think that's a little surprising, because obviously he's such a big character guy and played a lot of football and kind of a safe pick in that regard. But I guess I just never know how to evaluate when it seems like, yeah, this guy's played at every spot on the offensive line. That makes him valuable. Like, Landon Dickerson was one of the first 3 or 4 picks in the 2nd round off the board, and he gets drafted, and they're like, yeah, he's played every position on the offensive line. This is what we want. We want versatility. But then Cedarius Hutcherson, I guess that goes out the door, and they want someone that they know is going to fit a certain role. I don't know. He's one of the strongest guys in the draft. He's powerful. He's a great locker room guy. So I wouldn't be surprised if he catches on at Tampa Bay. They are very secure in their starting lineup, so clearly vying for a reserve role there. So, yeah, and the Cowboys, that's the right spot to take Israel Mukuamu. If he went early, I would have been surprised, because he just didn't show very much outside of one game. He caught a couple interceptions, and one was thrown right to him. So he's got a lot of work to do. They're probably going to move him to safety, I would guess, because it's so hard for him. He's just so long-limbed. It's hard for him to make those fast twitch movements as a quarterback. So if that's their plan, get a guy with ridiculous physical tools, just move him to safety and see what you can make out of him. I don't expect him to contribute day one, but there's a lot to work with there. A lot of ingredients.
@_Patrick Perret. If you've got some more specific questions, you can send those to him straight to Twitter. Papa Joe with one Air Heating and Air text line, 803-404-6100. What are the odds that Shi Smith could be the next Steve Smith? Do you think he has the fire and spunk that Steve Smith had? Patrick, I'll let you go first on that one.
If I was putting odds on it, the odds would be very, very low. You have really good upside on that. Shi Smith, what is their measurables? They're probably pretty similar. Steve Smith,
I would imagine they're
95.
almost identical.
Yeah, Steve Smith a little bit heavier. I don't know.
Fire and spunk. Let me go there then, Patrick. Does Shi Smith have the fire and spunk that Steve Smith had? Yes. I think
like to call trash.
I would go chip on the shoulder. What Steve Smith was able to do, 99.9% of people who ever play football is channel that in the proper direction for most of the time and let that work for him. What we saw, I think, several times in Shi Smith's college career is that it worked against him a couple of times. And notable this year, I think on a third down play, I don't even remember the game, but Will Muschamp has to take him out of the game. He's talking so much, and it was I think it was a proper move because it looked like he was about to get a penalty called on. You can't have that. The jump that he made, though, in his senior season to being the guy for South Carolina's receiving corps was very impressive, which makes me think there is a chance for what Joe has to say there on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Again, odds are not great, but you got a chance, man. And I think he's coming into a good situation, like you mentioned, just to have your offensive coordinator and Joe Brady. We saw what happened last year with Curtis Samuel having the season of his career. I think there is room for more production for sure on the outside for the Carolina Panthers. And Sam Darnold has something to prove. I feel like Joe Brady still has something to prove and is still looking to take that next step in his career as well. So the opportunity is there, Patrick.
I mean, but I guess I understand if you're a Panthers fan and he's one of the greatest players that's ever been a part of your franchise and the same last name and a little guy and all that, but let's not jump the gun and immediately call a 6th round pick the next Steve Smith, who's going to probably be a future Hall of Famer. Like, I'll give you a comp for a draft. The PFF draft guide, the guy right here, has his comp as Jamison Crowder. So if you start at Jamison Crowder, that would be phenomenal. Jamison Crowder takes like $10 million a year and consistently catches 75 to 100 balls. So that would be a good starting point before we jump right to the greatest wide receiver in franchise history.
Well, I wasn't sure exactly off the top of my head when Steve Smith was drafted. Just looked it up. He was 74th overall back in 2001, putting him in the 3rd round. Shi Smith going in the 6th round. Of course, that's not the only Gamecock news of the weekend. Gamecock baseball swept at Ole Miss. We're 10-5 in SEC play, now 11-10 after getting swept at Ole Miss and dropping 2 out of 3 the week before to number 1 Arkansas. Does not get any easier this week with Mississippi State coming to town. Disappointing weekend for sure. We will break it down for you. Fortunately, we'll have words of wisdom from our favorite 86-year-old caller, Gamecock Larry, who's already on hold this morning. Good to see you there. Jake hits us up on the YouTube live stream, our video live stream sponsored by Buford Lending, by the way. YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter up and rolling. Station handle on Twitter @1075thegame. Jake says, "Where's Bill? Is it the birthday is today? Is that right?"
Yeah.
So a month-long celebration. Yep, Jen's nodding the head affirmatively. It is officially Bill's birthday today. You can wish him happy birthday on Twitter @WillGunter with 1L. One of his birthday moves is to take the day off. He's celebrating at the beach. Will be back with us on Wednesday. Going to have tomorrow off as well, a recovery day. I think that's actually a smart move. So we've got a celebration for Bill going all off the air. We weren't invited to, by the way. Sonny also mentions there's plenty to talk about today besides baseball. What about that 4-star quarterback we picked up? That happened after our show. Actually, About 12 hours after we started on Friday, 6 p.m. Friday, I believe, is when Braden Davis, the quarterback out of the state of Delaware, announced his commitment to the University of South Carolina. So we'll give you some more details on that as well as we roll on this morning. 803-404-6100. If you would like to join the show, you can call or text. Just getting started here. Hope your week's off to a good start. It's the early game on 107.5 The Game. Nice work, Patrick. How was the Crawfish Festival, sir?
It was good. It was pretty good. My one leg very sunburned. Just one side of me got sunburned, unfortunately.
Ouch. Yeah, I got a little sunburn this weekend too from being out at the kids' games. So the food good?
Yeah, it was $20 for crawfish.
Right.
Probably got you like a dozen to maybe a little bit more crawfish, and then a potato. They didn't have butter or anything, so instead it was just trash. And a little piece of corn. So it was good. They were very spicy. It was good flavor, but I was surprised how spicy they were. I was surprised how big they were.
One more time, the end there. Sorry.
I was surprised at the spice level. I was surprised at the size. They were good size. They were very
pleasantly surprised. It sounds like.
Yeah, pleasantly surprised. They were very spicy for a family gathering. Like we would never make them that spicy in my family because my mom and sister would not eat them. They would say this is too much. So good on whoever's making them for not holding back.
You know, what is the deal? Did they have them like brought in from Louisiana? Do you know? I forget. I asked one time. Got the deal.
That would probably make sense. It was pretty. Yeah, they had live music. It was a pretty efficient operation. You had to get a ticket when you walked in, and then you just take the ticket up and hand them to the people. They'd hand you a tray. That way, they're not dealing with money and the trays all at once.
Right. Did it feel like normal real life?
Oh yeah. I mean, awesome. I don't know what I guess I've never been before, so I don't know if it used to be in the neighborhood or something like that in a parking lot, or I guess is what I've heard. But there was
where was it? I've been on Rosewood.
It was on the state fairgrounds, so there was all sorts of space.
Oh wow! Yeah, the last time I went, they just blocked off Rosewood.
So just walking through the streets in front of businesses and things like that.
Yep.
Yeah, there were lots of food trucks there. All the vendors that are normally at Soda City and Moon Mounds and things like that for kids. And music.
Good to hear.
I would be surprised if they didn't find the venue to be successful. I guess it's more of a neighborhood event, but I thought that worked out pretty good. Food. Yep, Louisiana crawfish. 10,000 pounds.
See our buddy's right on cue. Carolina Panthers just made me hate them even more for drafting the cock players.
Yeah. It is funny that he makes us out to be the he thinks like we're the salty ones and just really says that. Clearly, he does care that the Gamecock players of the world just don't care about the guys once they get to the NFL, and it's good to see that he holds his grudges past college.
Larry was saying off the air, he's down with you. I hope Trevor Lawrence is a wash. I said, no. I didn't say I want him to fail. I just want him I want him to lose once and learn how to lose, but then he can be successful.
Well,
not that evil.
He only had one national championship and never got a Heisman, so you could say his college tenure was a failure.
Yeah, okay.
Sound like Bill.
Ezra.
Just talking off the air, Patrick, taking part in the Crawfish Festival this weekend, South Carolina Fairgrounds, saying how it felt close to normal life. Is that fair, Patrick?
Yeah. I mean, they had tables spread out so you could eat and watch the live music, lots of vendors. Everything felt normal. I had a great time.
This another sign we're headed back to that direction for sure. This week, you get a chance to win a pair of concert tickets. It's been a while since I've been able to say that. Genesis coming back together, getting the band back together. They're going to be up in Charlotte November 20th. Give you details on exactly how you can win these tickets a little later on this morning. Going to try to get creative with this thing. We'll be giving away 5 pairs of tickets coming up this Friday. Again, November 20th is when Genesis will come to Charlotte, and the tickets actually go on sale this Friday as well. So stay tuned to find out more details on that. All of the tickets go on sale on Friday?
No, all of Genesis. Peter Gabriel will not be with them. But
so close.
Yeah.
I couldn't. All I got is Phil Collins with Genesis.
Well, I think Peter Gabriel was part of Genesis, but I think once they really got famous, he was doing solo stuff. So,
gotcha. You got any other names there?
No, I mean none of them are.
Mike Rutherford.
Phil Collins and Peter Gabriel are two of the biggest artists ever. So,
true. Very true.
Yeah, Anthony Phillips, Chris Stewart, John Silver, John Mayhew, Mike Rutherford, and Tony Banks are the 3 right now. Phil Collins, Mike Rutherford, and Tony Banks.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Patrick is doing his best Bill Gunter impersonation right now.
What, for reading? I said I only know Phil Collins and Peter Gabriel. They're the only ones worth knowing.
No one's arguing with you. Again, same thing. You're doing a great Bill impression. Perfect work. Bill's on vacation today and tomorrow, celebrating his birthday, number 39. Feel free to hit him up on Twitter at Will Gunter with 1L, or just complain to him on Twitter, whatever you want to do. Let's talk baseball real quick from the Gamecock baseball perspective. Tough weekend. No other way to say it. Ole Miss played better. They were coming off that ridiculous comeback win in the series finale against LSU last week. They barely avoided getting swept. They had lost 4 straight SEC series, and they rolled pretty well. It wasn't dominating, but it was, I don't know what the best way to put that would be. It was clear that Ole Miss deserved to win. Carolina didn't make enough plays. 5-1 game 1 score, and then the doubleheader scores on Saturday because they tried to get ahead of some weather in the area yesterday. 7-3 in game 1 of the doubleheader yesterday. Wes Clark did hit a home run in game number 2, but 6-4 the final score in that one. Ole Miss a winner as well. So the Gamecocks now, the numbers significantly different than they were a couple of weeks ago when they were off to that 10-5 start in SEC play at the midway point. now 11-10, having lost 5 of their last 6, and just 26-15 overall. Now, I'm pretty sure, I know it's been reported, I don't know if it's official or not, but Patrick, we talked about how this year it's different from the NCAA tournament perspective. It's a week from today is the date that the NCAA originally said they were going to announce the regional and super regional spots, I believe. I know it was 16 regional spots. And then recently, here in the last couple of weeks, I think, maybe just the last week, the report is they're now going to put 20 names out there. And then when the field is actually announced, they'll narrow it down from those 20 sites to 16. So it will continue to give some teams down the stretch something to play for, which is an odd number, right? To throw out 20 for 16 spots is a weird little wrinkle there. But will be interesting to see the names certainly a week from today, and especially how they try to spread them out geographically with the SEC being so good this year. You can throw in the Texas teams being really good, Texas Tech, Texas as well, and how they usually try to spread them out geographically pretty good. I don't know if they'll be able to do it, and then how they might end up matching these things up once the official field is announced, and that won't be until the usual time after conference tournaments are over. So right now, Gamecock baseball, it was one of the reasons why it was so impressive to start and so important to start as well as they did at 10-5 in conference play, because you knew with just the schedule being what it is. Number 1 Arkansas last week. Ole Miss is a good baseball team that had been struggling, kind of had the back against the wall to a certain degree, and clearly is on a roll now. Mississippi State, really good. Tennessee is tied with Vandy, I think, at the top of the standings in the SEC East. The Gamecocks, I think, sit at tied for 7th overall, and in a 4th place tie, I believe it is, or in 4th in the SEC East. So, Patrick, where do you handicap where the Gamecocks sit right now as May 3rd kicks off this one?
Well, I don't know. Baseball for me is so hard to get really upset after a sweep or a series loss or anything like that, because I just feel like when it comes down to it, as long as you make the postseason, the most important thing is playing the best at the right time. I think that's just the Nationals being that one run where they were not expected to win the championship, and they just all played their best baseball for about a month and won the World Series. Like, that's just how I feel about South Carolina. They obviously have the talent to do it, but it is a little disheartening. There's no way to know or say, yeah, South Carolina should expect to be one of the 20 teams we hear, or should expect not to?
I mean, we can speculate. I assume as we sit here right now today, they will be one of these teams announced. Now, you get swept over the weekend by Mississippi State at home, maybe that changes that. But the RPI is still way up there. The record is pretty good. To me, I put it out after the loss on Saturday. It's not the lock it used to be, but I think certainly still plenty of chances to play your way back into that role with who you have left now. 3 series in the SEC, a midweek game this week against North Florida, but you got Mississippi State at home this weekend. You got Kentucky, and then you got Tennessee left in SEC play. So in position to host a regional, I would say still, as long as you finish strong, I would see hosting a super regional, being one of the top 8 teams. It's going to take a near perfect finish, I would think, down the stretch now after losing 5 out of your last 6. That's kind of where I see Carolina baseball, but it's not overly surprising to see a tough stretch in knowing the competition. I think how it's gone down maybe a little bit disappointing, just not making as many plays as you would like to see, not playing the best baseball, the crispest baseball over the weekend. It wasn't like they played poorly. The bats just went silent for, I think, a little bit longer stretches than we've seen in the SEC. Never quite that hot streak that they had, when they lost the series opener for 3 straight weeks and then bounced back and won 2 out of 3. Didn't quite see that kind of run in Oxford over the weekend, Patrick.
Yeah, and I'm seeing Mississippi State looks like they got a sweep this weekend. They were number 4 last week, so they will. And Tennessee was number 6. So, yeah, 2 of your last 3 series against top 6 teams, and you need to win at least. Does that mean you need to sweep Kentucky no matter what happens with those other 2 series? Is that where you're at?
You need to win the series. I mean, it depends what you're talking about the goals are. If you're thinking you're going to host a super regional, then absolutely. But if you're just talking about getting back into a regional host conversation, and Neil says, looks like the hottest baseball team in the state right now is that team from the upstate. No doubt, Clemson sleeping a top 5 Louisville team over the weekend as well. And so the trajectory of those two programs certainly switching from that standpoint.
But it's too little, too late for Clemson, isn't it?
I mean, they're going to have to go on a heck of a run to even get back into the NCAA tournament conversation, I think. But sweeping Louisville will start to do that. Let's talk about to make sure you're not overreacting right now. I believe the Gamecocks have now lost 4 series on the season. The first one getting swept at Texas, then you just got swept against Ole Miss. You lost 2 out of 3 to a Vanderbilt team that's certainly one of the best teams in the country. And which one am I leaving out now? The other, number 1 Arkansas, 2 out of 3. So these are 4 of the best teams in the country, and it's not like these series were uncompetitive. You never want to get swept, especially this time of year. So that
3 of them are the 3 best teams in the country.
1, 2, and 3. And Ole Miss has been ranked number 4 at one point this year as well, and they were down to 19, I think, over the weekend after a bit of a rough stretch. I just say that simply to try to keep it in perspective this morning and know that goals are still in front of the Gamecock baseball team. Opportunity is still there. They're just going to have to play a little bit better for sure, and it's not going to be easy with Mississippi State and Tennessee, still 2 of the best teams in the country remaining. Will be fun, though, the next few weeks for Gamecock baseball. Wanted to get all that in before our favorite 86-year-old caller joins us on the Love Chevy phone lines now, 803-404-6100. Gamecock Larry, what are you thinking this morning, sir? How you feeling?
Well, I'm feeling okay. I got all these procedures I got to have done later on, but I ain't gonna worry about the Gamecock baseball right now. They'll take care of it. We'll be okay. But I wanna talk a little bit about something I don't know nothing about, but except what I hear you guys talk about is the NFL draft. Now, I understand. All I know about the NFL draft is what I know, what you guys talked about on 107.5. It don't come across my TV screen and nothing like that. But out of the 50 hours of sports talk on 107.5 last week, approximately 23 hours and 22 minutes was talked about the NFL draft. I'm a paragraph, but it's one long. I might not be exact, but that's about almost half of the 50 hours you guys talked was about the NFL draft. But 2 things that came out of that to me was, number 1, J.C. Horn. If he is good as you all say he is, and don't show no more than he did with the Gamecocks, yes, it's easy to be shut down when they're getting every play on the other side of the field, but they're still making the plays. So if he was that good, they would have come back to him sometime. And I've seen balls go through his hands. If he's that good, if he does the same for the Panthers as he does for the Gamecocks, he might stay in the league about 4 or 5 years. Now, and the Golden Boy, Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is, to me, Trevor Lawrence will be with the Jacksonville Jaguars maybe 3 years at the most. He will be the biggest bust in 2021 NFL draft. He won't be in the league 5 years. Now, that's about all I got to say. I want to make sure I had to talk slow because I can't talk at the same time. Didn't want to say anything wrong. But that's all you guys talked about. 23 and a half hours talking about the NFL draft. And let me tell you something. This morning you come on and you talked about 20-something minutes about the past NFL draft. Didn't say nothing about Shane Beamer getting a 4-star quarterback, Don Staley getting a tree in the center spot.
We talked about that last week.
What?
We talked about that last week.
Talking about what?
Don Staley getting a recruit.
Yeah, you talked about that last week, but you didn't. I'm gonna put it this way: to be a Gamecock station, I mean, you all cover everything, but when you cover the NFL draft for 23 hours and out of 50, that's mighty. I don't know what to say. I'm just gonna let it go. I can't think right. I'm laying here trying to catch my breath on you guys. Well, let me tell you something. Happy birthday, Bill. I'll talk to you guys later. Go Gamecocks.
Gamecock Larry going out on top. Patrick dared to poke the bear in there. How dare you, sir? That was gutsy. Very gutsy. We didn't talk about it on Friday because we hadn't heard the news about the transfer from Syracuse. 6'7" post player, defensive player of the year, rookie of the year in the ACC a couple of years ago. That news came out when we did the noon show there, Patrick, you, me, and Preston on Friday. But apparently Gamecock Larry wanted to hear more.
Hey, the station covered it. The station got it on all three shows. Both the shows that I was on and Heath. Everybody got it.
Hey, I'm impressed that Gamecock Larry knew the 23-hour and 22-minute breakdown last week from the NFL draft coverage. I would say
it was heavily skewed on Thursday and Friday. I would say of the 20 hours of program those 2 days, it was probably 18 or 19 hours of draft.
Patrick, you don't have to justify it to Gamecock Larry. Unlike how it might sound, he is not in charge. He is certainly he is entitled to his opinion. I love to hear it. And I'm glad we heard from him this morning. Certainly wish you luck with your procedures, Gamecock Larry. Look forward to hearing from you again soon. Maybe tomorrow would be great. And next year, when we do, I will probably recommend that we do a little bit more draft coverage next year, maybe more than half, because I don't know if you know this, Gamecock Larry, but the NFL draft is about football. And around here, we love football. You know that. Especially when you have Gamecocks
so popular, he still had to make draft comments.
Right.
Like he finished his draft talk complaints with draft talk. That's what's so great about the draft. Everyone has something to say about the draft.
Telling us how long J.C. Horn and Trevor Lawrence are going to last in the league. You're welcome to your opinion, sir. But the numbers back up where the NFL draft interest is and the NFL as well. But Gamecock Larry's not the only one. Bill from West Columbia says, I'm probably your only listener who's glad to see the multi-million-dollar meat market draft over. No, you're not, obviously, but I get it. And I think for some, it's actually a reminder that we're not having football for a while, and that also goes into the opinion. I actually did have some FCS playoffs over the weekend, though, now that I think about actual football. So if you're going to tell me that you're a huge college football fan and you're not going to back it up with anything that you watched over the weekend for playoff football, or you just want to complain, hey, we're here for that as well. 803-404-6100 is the number into the show. Sonny says, bah, Patrick is my hero, I'm guessing, for keeping Gamecock Larry on his toes there. And Nathan hits us up this morning from Tennessee. Good to hear from you, Nathan. Nathan's on the Facebook live stream. Sonny's on the YouTube live stream. We're up and rolling on Twitter as well there. You can also hit us up at 803-404-6100 like Gamecock Larry just did on the Love Chevy phone lines, Cool Care Heating and Air text line, that same number. Tell you a little bit more about that 4-star quarterback that committed to Carolina Friday evening out of the state of Delaware. That's next. It's the early game. It's 107.5 The Game.
Hey, we've got to help you with that Zoom call for work. You know when the mute button is on and they can't hear you? You could be listening to 107.5 The Game and they would.
Put the guns away, Patrick. Well, it's a good thing you're not wearing the short sleeves, actually. Want to break out the gun show there.
What does that mean? I just read the text from Bill W. Is he saying that because a small portion of people realize their dreams of playing in the NFL, it's not good to glamorize or glorify the ones who do? Is that his point?
He said yes, it's fun to him, but the hype is too much. That's his point. It sounds like.
He said something about like most people don't end up making. Or
he just mentioned that his wife was an elementary school guidance counselor who used to present to her kids the numbers. Some people who just are
not celebrate the outliers.
Never going to get into the NFL draft, and they'll use any justification behind it.
Interesting.
Man, is that what college football is now? The finalists for Braden Davis: Cincinnati, Duke, Georgia Tech, NC State, Stanford, and West Virginia.
It's not a list.
It's all over the place.
It's funny that like ESPN has him above Gunnar Stockton, and now everyone's just going around saying South Carolina got a higher rated quarterback than Gunnar Stockton.
Yeah, complain all you want to about the NFL draft, but at least those dudes have played in college. The recruiting hype is 1,000 times worse than NFL draft hype.
Yeah, and they're kids. They're actual kids. We call them college kids. They are adults. Yeah, I don't want to hear anyone criticize me for liking a draft if you're a recruiting nerd. Don't want to hear it.
No, I don't think those are the guys that would criticize it all. You're basically the same guy. You're just on the next.
Yeah, I just do it with adults.
Hot Take Hotline, always there for you 24/7. You can vent at any time. Maybe if the NFL draft hype is too much for you, you can call 803-978-6654. Could have done that while the Gamecocks were struggling in Oxford over the weekend as well at any time, just to get it out there. That Hot Take Hotline sponsored by Twin Peaks for the men who never settle. Go see down in Vista at 600 Gervais Street. I could have done it as well just to celebrate, I guess, if you were really pumped up on Friday, 6 o'clock, Instagram Live, a 4-star quarterback prospect out of the state of Delaware, Braden Davis, 6'5", 195, committing to the Gamecocks. Third commit in the class of 2022. I'm just saying that number, that year, makes my brain hurt. He joins Anthony Rose, a defensive back out of Florida, and Grayson Maines, offensive lineman out of the state of Georgia. In the first full class that Shane Beamer and company will have to put together, and a 4-star guy picking the Gamecocks over his finalists. That is a wildly interesting, wide array of a variety of college football programs. Cincinnati, then you got 3 ACC programs, Duke, Georgia Tech, NC State, and you throw in a Pac-12 Stanford and a Big 12 West Virginia. Quite the list of finalists that Braden Davis chose the Gamecocks over. Patrick said he actually, as well as these virtual visits that the coaching staff, the only thing they've been allowed to do in the dead period, he actually came down on an unofficial, self-guided tour to South Carolina last month to check out the campus and the city. Said he liked everything about Columbia and is comfortable going ahead and making his commitment to Carolina. What do you make of it?
I mean, it's good to see that people are still see that big time players see the program going in a positive direction, but we can get into it more. I have a lot of comments on the recruiting industry as a whole, just the recruiting world.
Oh, the draft analysts feel a turf war coming on in hour number 2. I got a lot of comments.
I guess I shouldn't hype it up. Not that many comments, just a few overarching points.
Nathan, I'm not quite sure what do you mean about Colin Hill being worth. He didn't get drafted, man. He was just a free agent pickup.
Yeah,
He's just gonna get a shot. I think we would all be shocked if he ends up sticking. This is just how it goes usually.
The Bengals, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
The
gonna
musical
get,
group?
Nice. It's a manic Monday, Jen.
I don't know how much money he's
Exactly.
gonna get, but he'll get like 50 grand from the Bengals to get a head start on whatever it is he does next. I don't know what the deal is.
50 grand?
I don't know.
That would be high.
15? I don't know. What is the minimum for a training camp contract?
Expenses, I would imagine.
They got to give him something.
Yeah,
I'm sure
$1,000. So this time of year, it always comes out. I forget what GM put it out there. He's like, so last free agent, I called him and told him that it's $1,000 is what the agreement is for the free agent contract. And he's like, well, I only have $200 right now, but I'll try to come up with the rest of the money. It's the classic story right now. It's like, no, we pay you. So I would guess it's $1,000.
Yeah, it looks like between $1,000 and $2,000 a week.
Right. So you got to make it more than a week to get paid more than that.
Yeah. So every week that he can survive is another $1,000. That's pretty good.
Attaboy, Nathan. Hey, Sonny, come on, man. 6'5", 195 is not Cam Newton stuff. And this is another thing about the recruiting industry. There, I think I've seen him classified as a pro style guy and a dual threat guy.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Guy plays quarterback.
That was going to be part of my complaint. I was very surprised that Colin Hill even got on a training camp roster. So.
Was the pure recommendation of Will Muschamp, Sunday arm.
Yeah, so he's on the Bengals staff without any link to Colorado State or no one that I know of.
Don't know the connection.
There's no way that they were just watching Shi Smith tape and they were like, "Oh, this quarterback's really popping off the screen."
Our favorite texter about the Braden Davis, the new quarterback. I guess this is the new savior for the Gamecocks again? ? Scrub. Wow.
Al Golden is the linebackers coach for the Bengals. I didn't know that.
Miami coach, Temple guy.
Yeah.
Interesting. I would imagine he and Matt Rule aren't necessarily buddies from their Temple tenures.
It's a long drop from Miami coach to linebackers coach.
Yeah.
I guess position coach is position coach. It's not a big deal.
Wonder if he still wears his tie.
I think he's even allowed. They just tell him, "Now you wearing a polo, dude."
This is the assistant coach uniform, sir.
Yeah, sorry.
Leave it.
Not allowed to stand out. I actually do start to wonder if this texter is just trolling and not being serious. He's playing into it.
What's that?
If this texter is just playing into it now and not actually doesn't actually feel that way at the end of the day.
That's the thing about texting, right? You can just type it and be done with it.
Yeah.
You kind of believe it, kind of have fun with it, and then you see how other people take it, right? Or you just play into that. I feel like that's how social media always spirals out of control.
It's like his last conquest to get us to read a text from him on the air.
Right?
He texts me afternoon? No, not really. Yeah, he does.
Oh, that's how he gets Heath to respond to him.
Yeah, but I mean because he knows he's got Heath.
You mean the halftime show?
I mean the halftime show, yeah. Does a little bit, but I don't think he realizes that the texts literally do not get read.
Yes, Nathan, for sure. See Jason Tatum go for 60 on Saturday.
Yeah.
Great.
That was a regulation game too, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, Patrick, you're not like Bill. You're not letting the dishes sit in your sink for days at a time, are you?
No.
I mentioned that because I feel like the move this morning is you've had a 3 or 4 day run of just social Super Bowls. You had a party every night. It's all been about the food and the beverages, and the conversation has been exactly what you want it to be. You kind of look forward to it all year, and now you're left with the cleanup this morning. It's getting back to reality. NFL draft is over for you.
Well, still cleanup, but it wasn't dishes. It was yesterday. Yeah, it was only yesterday that I had to sweep all the cans off my desk right here so I could set my laptop off, and that was Thursday night.
You leave empty cans on the desk?
Well, I have to walk downstairs.
Oh, wow.
Big thing. I took maybe 1 or 2 at a time, but I didn't want to have to.
You could have just brought like a garbage bag upstairs, and have a recycling bag, and then just take it all down. When you're done.
Not get a separate receptacle there in the room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't you have a window? Couldn't you just? I see a window there. Couldn't you just?
Yeah,
cross
but there's
out
a
the window?
screen. I have to push it out.
Oh, wow.
Also, the thing to do is put the recycling bin right below the window.
Yeah,
There you
I
go.
do have a lot of
Done.
trash cans, but I wanted to be a recycler. I wanted to be a good person.
All right, throw the recycling deal down there. We figured it out, I think. Nathan just hit us up on the Facebook live stream. He seems dirty.
Me or Bill?
It's a good question. I don't know, but maybe he's throwing you both in that category. The can thing, man. Come on. But good for you. I mean, you're still a single guy. You can still do it at 25 years old. Live it up while you can, sir. Live it up while you can. 803-404-6100, the number into the program this morning. I think it's big for it is nothing new, but there is a new record now, I guess is the reason why I bring this up. 65 is the number. I'm a bit surprised that's the record for the SEC in this past draft. The most ever out of one conference. All 14 teams with at least one draft pick. The Gamecocks with 4. A little surprising they didn't have 5. Sedarius Hutcherson, the offensive lineman, not selected. Shi Smith and Israel Mukwamu late in the draft in the 6th round. It was Ernest Jones, a little higher than a lot of people projected him, going to the 3rd round, the LA Rams, and J.C. Horn. I think the surprise of the early draft, maybe outside of Trey Lance, which wasn't a shock necessarily to the 49ers at 3, but a bit of a surprise over Justin Fields and him sliding to 11. But Horn, the first defensive player taken at number 8, the Carolina Panthers. You can guarantee Shane Beamer and company will continue to sell the South Carolina program a lot like Will Muschamp and the previous staff did. Patrick, are you with me on this? Especially, yeah. I mean, the best example is who we just talked about at the end of hour number 1. 6'5", 195-pound quarterback Braden Davis from the state of Delaware. The finalists in his group of colleges that he was selecting from on Friday included 3 ACC schools, a Big 12 school, a Pac-12 school, a group of 5 school that's done really well lately in Cincinnati, and 1 SEC school. And he chose the Gamecocks, the 3rd commit for Shane Beamer and company. So that allure, and Shane told us when he was hired, because of his background and his familiarity with the Virginia / north around the DC area, that's where the Gamecocks were going to go. That's where he and his coaching staff were going to go for players. Now they've done it already a couple of times, really, because they've gotten a transfer out of Delaware in the linebacker in Debo Williams, per Marshawn Lloyd's suggestion. And now they've gone into the state of Delaware for their quarterback prospect, a 4-star guy, considered a 4-star guy in Braden Davis. But I think the sell to the SEC is still the strongest pitch that Shane Beamer and company can make right now. And about a month from now is when that dead period will be over and you finally get official visits. And that's when you can start to really harp on the facilities and then the personalities and the vibe of the coaching staff and the whole deal. But until that, I think it's just selling that SEC brand that can really stick out for South Carolina at this point. What about you, sir?
Yeah, I mean, I think from what we heard about Braden Davis only coming here on his own and just driving around, I guess, and taking a tour of the campus, that actually makes you feel better because he's clearly bought into what's happening here with the coaching staff, because clearly he wasn't allowed to walk into – maybe he could walk up to the facility, like the doors of the indoor and the ops center, but you can't walk around and see up close and personal, like this is what your locker would look like, or walk through like a day in the life type deal. So that's kind of the big.
Wouldn't that be the weirdest? Because first of all, coaches knew he was on campus, right? I mean, if you've ever heard an assistant coach talk about recruiting, I'm thinking of Brad Lawing tell the stories of Marcus Lattimore and the recruitment, how that all went down, and basically they knew his schedule, I think, in high school when he would be in PE or something, and would he be able to come out and talk or whatever within the NCAA rules, but just barely kind of thing, pushing around. I feel like this is kind of like the coaches standing inside the glass, like waving to him or talking to him on the phone. He's like up to the glass, like it's some kind of zoo exhibit or something. To be so strange, for sure.
Accidentally drop a key card outside the front door so we can stand in the building.
Well, I'm guessing maybe the COVID protocols is the main issue there, more than anything else. But just a strange time for sure. But I agree with you. When you're talking about commitments in May for a high school kid who at the earliest would enroll early in December and could it could be in more than a year until he gets on campus at this point. You got to go with, all right, how strong, how solid is the commitment? And I'm with you. If you had a highly coveted 4-star quarterback who hadn't been on campus at all and was from a state like Delaware, is just kind of unfamiliar with the program, I would be more concerned about the longevity of that and how solid it would remain. But having heard that extra tidbit that I read from the article on Gamecock Central that he visited kind of on his own with his family, I think that will make Gamecock fans feel a little bit better about that. And now it's moving forward, and Shane Beamer and company wants this will be a little bit different recruiting period as well, because when guys come or visit, they'll be able to be worked out by the coaches to some degree. I think here that has not been the case previously, but I think that loosening up those rules because of the lockdown that recruiting has been for the last year plus now, I guess. But June 1st, again, the first time that recruiting will be a lot more like it used to be, and then some. So looking to get on a roll. I know the new coaching staff will be looking to do that here in the coming months. Still, it's a bit of the quiet before the storm for the coaching staff before that can actually happen. And right now, it's for Patrick, NFL draft gurus, it's kind of the quiet after the storm with what happened over the weekend. In hour number 1, Patrick proclaiming crowning Cleveland as the champions of this year's draft. Well, if they're the champs for what they did, you mentioned the value they ended up getting with their picks. Well, who's on the other end of the spectrum this morning in the way too soon draft evaluations that I don't know if anyone's ever held accountable for, and part of what makes my head hurt about the NFL draft?
Well, nobody came out with just all bad players or anything like that. But when you look at teams that only had a couple picks, like the Seahawks only picked 3 players. Like, it's hard to say that the Seahawks did a great job because they only had 3 players in their roster. But I do like all 3 of the players that they got. Like, D. Eskridge, wide receiver from Western Michigan, got juice. So all 3 of their starting receivers are going to be 4-3 guys. So it's hard for me to criticize that. Trey Brown from Oklahoma was awesome at the Senior Bowl, but he's just a tiny little guy, like 5'8" or something like that. So he's a really undersized corner, but plays big. So I like him a lot. And Stone Forsythe, the tackle from Florida. Like, it's hard for me to say that they had one of the best drafts because they only drafted 3 players, but it's hard for me to be overly critical either because I think they hit all 3. I didn't like what the Steelers did very much. I really like their first 2 picks. I mean, I really like their first 2 players. I don't like the Najee Harris pick, but I like Najee Harris as a player and a person, and I like Pat Freiermuth from Penn State. But I just think the Steelers misevaluated what their actual problem was. Ben Roethlisberger threw the ball within like half a second of it touching his hand this last year on every single play. And just because you drafted a good running back, that's not going to change things. Like, Najee Harris ran behind one of the best offensive lines we've seen in college football, and now he's going to run behind one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. And I mean, it's just going to be hard for him to match that production. And I think the Steelers completely misidentified what their actual root cause of their issues was. So I wasn't too high on the Steelers draft. To be honest, I didn't love the Saints draft either. Which is sad.
Because the Saints are 1B team in the NFL. What's wrong with the Saints draft?
I think they reached a little bit. I mean, Peyton Turner from Houston has a lot of upside, so I don't hate that as a first-round pick at 28. But you have a lot of needs. You need you need another wide receiver. You need some back help. They drafted Pete Warner from Ohio State, who his upside is just not that high. He's kind of a guy that you're going to plug in. He's going to play from probably day one. He's going to be pretty good for a long time, but he's not going to be. He doesn't have this crazy upside to be one of the best linebackers in the league. Like, I'd at least rather I like taking shots on guys that have the potential, like athletically or something, to be really big time players.
Speaking of the Saints, Columbia native Bryce Thompson, former Tennessee Volunteer, left school a year early to turn pro. Did not get drafted, but will get his shot with the New Orleans Saints, signing a free agent deal there. Sedarius Hutcherson signing the free agent deal. It was one of the 5 Gamecocks who we thought would get drafted. It ended up being just 4. Hutcherson did not get drafted, but he's going to get a shot with the Tampa Bay Bucks. Colin Hill with the Cincinnati Bengals, and Adam Prentice with the Denver Broncos, a couple other free agent signings, along with the 6th-round selections of Shi Smith, the Carolina Panthers, Israel Mukuamu, the Dallas Cowboys, 3rd-round pick for Ernest Jones there with the Rams, and then the 1st-round pick of J.C. Horn at number 8 overall to the Carolina Panthers. That really headlined things from the Gamecock perspective. Also, baseball over the weekend swept at Ole Miss, certainly not helping the chances to host. We'll get into those details. Hosted NCAA Regional we're talking about as we continue to roll on this morning. 803-404-6100 is the number if you would like to call or text the show. Bill Gunter celebrating his birthday today. So he's off today and tomorrow. We'll try to fill in Bill's shoes. 803-404-6100 is the number. I know Jen was restrained. Good personal restraint there. Nope, she couldn't do it.
Okay, I won't. Okay. It's Monday. I'll be nice. Happy birthday,
That's
Bill.
very kind of you. At Will Gunter with 1L if you want to shoot him a happy birthday message on Twitter. Jen is at Jen Jensen Morse. Patrick, the NFL draft analyst, like Nathan, just hit us up with Colts ? You can give your evaluations of your specific teams or players from the NFL draft if that's where you would like to go. At _Patrick Perrette, where you can find him on Twitter. I'm at Tim Hill 1075. It's the early game here on 1075 The Game.
And new head football coach, Shane Beamer, 1075 The Game.
Today is an absolute dream come true. Not just to be a head coach in the Southeastern Conference, but to be the head coach at the University.
You get any sleep this weekend?
Yeah, it was not bad. I'll nap again today before work. Nathan, I like the Colts draft. Okay, I like their first 2 picks a little bit. They didn't draft a corner. They drafted their only wide receiver they drafted was in the 7th round. I don't love that. They didn't get a tackle that their biggest needs were left tackle and wide receiver and then some pass rushers. They got the pass rushers. They still need a left tackle. Not a good position to be in. And their wide receiver room is going to probably depend mostly on Michael Pittman taking a big jump in year 2. So,
well, to me, left tackle is probably just as rare to hit on a big-time prospect as it is for a quarterback, isn't it?
Well, I mean, like last year, all of the first-round picks hit.
How many?
4. They all started, I think, 16 games.
Okay, but that doesn't mean they're all going to be Pro Bowl guys, though.
No, but on the high end, I think that you're going to get kind of a starter. Yeah, the Colts could have drafted Christian Darrisaw. I like Kwity Paye a lot as a player, but they could have drafted Christian Darrisaw. That's like the same thing with the Jags. Like, I would have liked any other player that ended the first round more than Travis Etienne. Maybe in the guys. Oh, yeah. I mean, this will be after training camp. There will be late training camp cuts all over the place this year, but it will be hard to just grab somebody to start right away at left tackle. I mean, there was talk about them moving Quentin Nelson to tackle, which just is a dangerous game to play. I kind of think when you have the best left guard in the league, you just leave him there and don't mess with that at all. And their 2nd-round pick didn't play last year because he tore his ACL. I don't know how to say his name. I think he was the only Vanderbilt player drafted. Yep, 1 draftee for Vanderbilt.
This This run that Alabama's been on is ridiculous. Talk about it when we come back. So, Patrick, we still need to take the next break here
Okay.
relatively quickly.
We're in the old timey clip of the day.
Call works a little better on TV.
When you can't see the ball actually go in the hole.
On TV.
Man.
And that's our Old Tiny clip of the day, sponsored by Old Tiny Meat Market, with 3 locations: Lexington, South Congaree, and St. Andrews Road in Irma. Broadcasting live from the Heritage Chevrolet Studios. This is 107.5 The Game at Heritage Chevrolet. Our first price is on.
Bill Gunter out celebrating his birthday today. That means Grill Bill will turn into Grill Patrick. Maybe we should call it Trick Patrick. Hit Jen up at 803-404-6100 if you would like to join us a little later in the show. That can get you a $50 IGA gift card. Also will qualify you to win a Camp Chef pellet grill. Just give us a call at 803-404-6100. I would imagine you probably want to go draft heavy on today's Grill Patrick or Trick Patrick or wherever you want to go there. As long as it's creative and you have some fun with it, I'm all for it. And certainly want to give away that $50 IGA gift card. Grill Bill is the usual contest. And if you want to sign up for that, obviously we'll be back on that track next Monday when Bill is back. Go to 1075thegame.com, check out the contest tab, and just click on Grill Bill, put in some questions in there, and we'll have fun with him for sure. Grill Bill, sponsored by the South Carolina Pork Board. It's member farmers, IGA food stores, and Camp Chef. So an example of how you could grill Patrick this morning, being the NFL draft expert he is, you could ask him how many Alabama players got taken total in this year's NFL draft, Patrick.
Well, I didn't see Miller Forrestall get called, and I know Dylan Moses didn't get drafted, so I'm thinking 9.
Close, 10.
Because they're long snapper. Yeah, because their long snapper got drafted. Gotcha.
Which is crazy to me, right? Yeah. And how you didn't have that one on your draft board there. But the really impressive part is not just that they had 10 players picked. And I think last year LSU set the record with 14, by the way. So this is not an unprecedented type of deal this year for Alabama. The unprecedented part, or the close to unprecedented part, is the last 5-year stretch. Patrick, you want to guess how many Alabama guys have been taken combined in the last 5 drafts?
I would say it's probably an average of, I'll give it 7 to 8. I'll say like 38.
That was a good guess. This year, they actually missed out on their average.
Oh.
51, so it's just like 10 per year, right? One more. And that ties, according to the Elias Sports Bureau, research that I'm reading on ESPN.com here, ties the most NFL draft picks over any 5-year span in the common draft era. The question I will then ask you is, what school's record did they tie? Is the question.
Probably I'd say Miami.
Good guess. Remember, we went through that when they had, was it 3 first-round pick? Was it 4 first-round pick? Something ridiculous. Wow.
They had 6. Alabama tied the record with 6.
6 first-round guys? That is so nuts, just to say out loud. You're right. And I even read the guys. It was the Sean Taylor class, wasn't that 04? Wasn't that the deal?
Winslow, Vince Wilfork. Yeah.
Right. And Alabama had 6 of the 12 SEC first-rounders this year, ended up with 10 overall. That's 51 now in the last 5-year stretch. But Miami did not set that record back in the 2000s of 51. I'll give you another guess. We'll all play along together. You guys feel free to play along. Feel free to text us at 803-404-6100. The school that Alabama tied with this 5-year stretch run of 51 draft picks. What school held the record by themselves, and now is it tied?
Is it recent?
It is not.
Oh.
Good question. So it makes it's out of your wheelhouse for sure.
Yeah. I mean,
out of my wheelhouse as well, if that helps you.
Navy. Was it like no? Because that's a Notre Dame. I don't.
Another good guess, I would say. Let's see. We got some more guesses coming in. Neil nailed it right off the bat. I'm wondering, Neil, you got to tell us if you knew that or you looked that up. Danny's got a good guess. Nebraska. Not correct.
Yeah, Nebraska was a thought. Yeah.
Not a bad guess. I think even as great as they were, I think they still had the reputation of being the great college program, not necessarily just being the NFL factory. This program that actually does have the record, the correct answer to this, I think, had the reputation of both, and one that has changed through the years significantly. Neil said it was a lucky guess, the one that he got correct. Anonymous Texter hits us up with Texas. Good guess, but incorrect. Going with Michigan. Incorrect. Florida State, another good guess from Daniel S. Incorrect. Wayne also with a Michigan guess. Marshall nailed it. Marshall, you got to tell me if you knew that one or you got it correct. Another anonymous texter. A couple of anonymous texters got it correct right off the bat, so I'm guessing they looked. It's in the mid-70s. I will narrow it down for you.
I saw the text. But
okay, so you now know what it is.
I actually would have guessed that school from a different span. Like I would
from the Pete Carroll era.
Yeah.
It's just the number is so ridiculous, right? Like you can have really good top end players, but to average 10 guys drafted, more than 10 guys drafted in 5 years, have 51 guys. You just have to have so many guys. Like Chris P just guessed Ohio State. That's another great guess, but it was Southern Cal back in the mid 70s that set the record of 51 that Alabama just tied of guys drafted. And you got to remember too, Southern Cal had the advantage of more draft rounds, right? So it's that's that much more impressive for Alabama to now have tied their record from the 70s, knowing that they narrowed the draft way down to 7 rounds here in the last couple of decades, I guess.
That's a bad sign.
For college football?
That there's more programs, there's more talent, and there's less rounds, yet one program is becoming even more dominant.
I don't know if it's good or bad. If you're going to look at it from the college football playoff is boring and Alabama and Clemson are always there, we don't get enough. Well, I think that's clearly going to change soon, right? With the expansion, it looks very inevitable, to be redundant, that the college football playoff is going to expand. I don't think it's bad at all for the product on the field. And we know that Alabama is one of the big boys of college football. And I think it makes for an easy watch for the casual college football fan, right? There are the Alabama lovers, mostly in the state of Alabama, and then everybody else, probably like me, and you're just fine with Nick Saban not winning. So I don't think it's a bad thing at all. Also, you get to follow these guys in the NFL and see, I feel like we develop a relationship with Alabama guys because they have to work their way into the lineup. They're just not hopping in and hopping out. It's not college basketball one and done kind of thing. So I got no problem with it. I can understand, though, if you come to that conclusion and say, oh, this stinks for college football. I just am amazed by the dominance. And to me, the question is not, is this bad for college football? It is, when does this run come to an end? How long can Nick Saban continue to do this?
Well,
Coming up on 70 years old and knowing that Steve Spurrier is the only other 70-year-old to coach in the SEC, and knowing where the college the SEC arms race is and how competitive things are. And you just had Auburn make a move going over to Boise State and getting Brian Harsin in there, paying him a bunch of money, and everybody in the SEC is paying a bunch of money out there, and their recruiters get paid a bunch to get guys in. How long can that Alabama powerhouse, the machine, keep cranking out NFL guys? And once Nick Saban leaves, how do things change? That's where I'm at with that number.
Well, they just landed the greatest draft recruiting class in college football history. If you check like the Rivals and 24/7 rankings, I'm looking at their I know they had their 2017 class after this draft ended up with, I believe, 8 first-round picks in one recruiting class, which is just outrageous. And Dylan Moses, their third highest recruited player, didn't even end up getting drafted. So
let me put that in perspective, by the way, Patrick. You just said 8 first-round draft picks in one college football recruiting class.
Yes.
Put that in perspective. South Carolina, which I think is a well-respected nationally program as far as putting talent into the NFL. Do you remember how many total first-round draft picks in the University of South Carolina football history?
Ooh. I think it was right around 10.
15.
Okay, 15.
They had more than half,
yeah.
In one single recruiting class. Is unreal what Alabama has done. And I think it might kind of reverse engineer this thing. How have they not won more national championships, right? How do they not win it every year? You got that kind of talent rolling in and out Alabama.
But, I mean, you can still say everyone who plays for Nick Saban and
wins the national
championship as long as you stay for at least 3 years. And this class, the 2017 class, won 2 national championships, 8 first-round picks. It's by far the most successful and winningest recruiting class in college football history.
I love that no one has copped to actually looking this thing up. Marshall says it was a guess. Another anonymous texter, random guess with Southern Cal. At least one anonymous texter did say he was like you. He assumed it was the Pete Carroll era. So that's as honest as we're going to get on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Well done for everybody who played along there, and good to see. Well, you're going to have Matt B join us a little later in the program for our Grill Bill, Grill Patrick edition here on the show. And Matt B now a winner here this morning. And again, if you didn't miss the announcement a little bit earlier, getting a little bit closer back to normal for the first time in a long time. Going to have some concert tickets to give away. Genesis coming to Charlotte in November. Those tickets go on sale on Friday. Going to do, what do you think, Patrick? You're 25 years old. You know who Genesis is, correct?
Yep.
What's the one song that you would associate with Genesis?
My favorite Genesis song is Invisible Touch.
Oh, wow. Did not see that coming. If I tell you there is one specific, there's like a 10-second portion of a song that gets the air drums going. Are you familiar with where I'm going with here?
I feel like, there's a difference here because Phil Collins has some big ones that were solo songs.
Oh, yeah, I'm not going to get into those technicalities. If it's Phil Collins, it's connected to Genesis. And are you
saying In the Air Tonight then?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think that's a Genesis song.
Well, it is now. We're still putting it in there to give away the Genesis tickets. That's what we're going to be looking for. Your video of the air drum solo there in the air tonight. And the 5 best will be going to Genesis up in Charlotte. 0.75 the game. We'll narrow it down and select the winners come Friday, but you got all week to figure that out, and just hit us up on Twitter, on the Facebook account at 1075 the game. Send those in. You can send it to our personal accounts if you would prefer. Just get it up on the internet and we'll find it And then the best will be rewarded with some free tickets to Genesis at the end of this week. We need to take a quick break and kick off the second half of the show. When we come back, Bill Gunter's birthday. So he is out today. Patrick Perrette more than filling in for him as usual. It's the Jen's favorite day of the year. It's the early game. It's 107.5. This weekend, it was a good weekend at the Hill House. We actually got outside probably more than usual. The weather was fantastic. Got kids' games, the whole thing. And that meant the 1-year-old was eating the dirt on the ground instead of eating stuff off of our floors a little bit more. But he still continued that tradition of eating stuff off the floors. Don't get that wrong. I am a little bit more associated with the floors because of the 1-year-old these days. I have more appreciation for the Zero Res has done at my house. Zero Res Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning. Been out to my house a couple of times, cleaned my carpets, cleaned an area rug in the family room for me, freshened up the tiles in the kitchen and the bathroom. Done a great job, but it's how Zero Res does it differently than anybody else. That's especially important to me and my family because there's no harsh chemicals involved in the Zero Res process. That's why, or they do it because they have a patented powered water system. And it's why my family and I feel so good about having Zero Res out to our house. Also, there's no leftover soapy residue. Why my carpets have stayed cleaner longer. Yours can as well, whether it's at your home or at your business. Zero Res is the team to call right now. 803-262-4020 is the number. ZeroResColumbia.com is the website. You can book your appointment today. 3 rooms of carpet clean for only $119 plus a free hallway. When you mention me, Tim Hill, that's Zero Res. Spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean. All right, that was good to get some people involved on the old text line there. Sounds like they were all invested in that one. Numbers ridiculous.
So I'm looking at their 17 class, 11, 17 class. You can actually get more.
Wow.
I wouldn't be surprised if Brian Robinson comes in as the best running back in the country next year. I don't think anyone would at this point.
Ridiculous. That one. What other headline can I use? Delaware QB chooses. That's right. Attaboy, Anthony. Morning. Did you look this thing up, by the way? Nathan said the deer doing in the air tonight. What the?
No.
Greg was all about in the air tonight.
It's got 6 million views though.
Describe it for us as you're watching it.
It's a deer walking up to a child. It's like a tiny little type playground. And it runs through it. I guess I'm assuming that this needs volume. Oh, it's just it's a deer falling, and smacking its up through a playset, but to the beat of In the Air Tonight.
And the internet, huh? A lot of free time out there.
It's a quick watch.
Seriously. I'm honestly surprised we don't see more Bill on the internet. I'm not complaining, but can't you see him doing kind of some goofy stuff like that, and then like, you know, doing something golfish with a cigar out by the water, and then
No, because
with Bill.
this requires pre-planning and then execution. Typically, the internet videos.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
I'm almost surprised Bill isn't on TikTok.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like he missed 5 years. If he was 5 years younger, I think he would be that guy.
Might be.
Yeah, he didn't. If he grew up with an iPhone,
Right.
yeah,
He'd definitely be that
Actually,
guy.
I was kind of where you were without the second half of the sentence, just if he grew up.
Nah.
I thought that's where you were going.
but that's important. Like growing up with the iPhone, where it's like second nature how to work everything
Exactly.
on there and do all the little things.
Just a mindset, right? It's just
Mhm.
how you think.
Yeah.
All right, we're about to head back in. So we'll keep this a little shorter.
Was watching the nephew's flag football game. My 6-year-old sees another kid playing with a Nintendo Switch. He's like, "Can I go play? Can I go play?" And their parents were like, "Yeah, it's always great to have it because you can always take it away and threaten them." Like, well, that's one way to do it.
Yeah.
Not your fault, Nathan. Not your fault.
All right, guys, up.
20 minutes from now, a little less now, is your first chance of 10 today and 50 for the week by my math. We do it every hour, 10 times a day, every work day, and we'll do it up until May 12th. So you still have about 10 more days to do this thing. That's our 25K workday payday. We reveal a secret keyword every hour and ask you to text in to qualify to win $100. Every winner entered into the drawing, the grand prize jackpot of $25,000. That number that you text is 95819. That does not change. The secret keyword does change every hour, 8 until 5, right here on 107.5 The Game. I mentioned we get into the details of Gamecock baseball and got a text in, or a tweet in, I should say, earlier at 107.5 The Game, where Randy hit me up. Randy is an LSU fan, says South Carolina has to really fight to get a host spot. What's turning into their only signature series win is Florida getting back hot. Hard to see more than 5 SEC host locations, so they're battling with Florida for that spot. As it stands this week, the potential is on the schedule for Carolina. Yeah, I guess that's how you handicap it right now. Again, originally, I think college baseball was going to put out just 16 regional host sites 1 week from today. I think from what I've seen reported is now they're going to expand that to 20 sites they're going to put out and then narrow it down to 16 once the entire field comes out. So I think you'll see more SEC names out there. Maybe it's because of the SEC's dominance that they're putting this out there, but I think it makes sense to have a certain amount of regional hosts that submitted a bid to qualify for this thing, and then to reward the teams for their full seasons, and not to do it May 10th with a couple of weeks still left in the season where it won't matter. That just makes sense to me. I understand this year you have COVID protocols in place, Patrick. You got to do some extra work when you're a host site. I get that. I get submitting the bid earlier. But there's
a decision, right?
Yeah, there's no reason why you can't qualify these sites. And I don't understand why it'd just be 20. I guess just from an NCAA money standpoint, they don't want to qualify 32 sites or something like that. Hey, go ahead and qualify these sites, man. And then just say later, you can come back after the season and say, yep, this is actually who is going to be hosting now. And then put out the NCAA tournament bracket accordingly. It's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out for sure.
I don't get it. Like, if you make them submit the bid so you can just basically check yes or no, they're qualified, like they're going to be able to do what we need them to do. And then, like, what is the point of just dangling a carrot? Like, 4 teams are just not going to be able to. I just don't understand. Are you trying to add intrigue to the end of the season for a couple of the teams at the back half? Like, nothing's gonna change for the top 5 or 10 teams. Like they already know that they're secure in having their bids, and I just don't get it. Is it gonna draw TV interest for the last 4, or it's weird.
I think it'll make the NCAA and college baseball programs feel like they're being treated down the stretch a little bit more fairly than they would have been otherwise. I mean, it avoids a team completely going on a run the last couple of weeks, obviously having a better resume than a team that fell flat, right? And them getting jobbed out of hosting an NCAA regional, assuming they submitted and their facilities are up to the standards and the whole thing. That's what you avoid. But you're right. In actuality, you're really just going to have 4 programs out there that are going to feel like they got robbed at the end, probably because they were part of that 20 host site announcement originally. And inevitably, there's got to be a program on that list probably that will finish just fine. You know, I don't think there are going to be 4 programs that finish disappointingly. It's going to work out great and say, yep, those guys didn't deserve it, but the other 16 in. It's going to be a little messy, I think. And 20 number seems awfully arbitrary.
And the regional thing is going to make it interesting too. Like how you can try and make it as regional as you want, but if 90% of the top 20 teams are in the South, from Texas to the Southeast, like what are you really going to do? You just going to cut 4 Southeastern programs out of that last 4, just because you want to spread it out a little bit? Like, I feel like they're setting themselves up for a lot of scrutiny here.
Well, that's what it always is with the NCAA tournament, to some degree, no matter what tournament, no matter what sport and how the setup is. This year, I think it's going to be scrutinized probably more, or it just seems like the opportunity is for it to be a little messier than it's ever been. I think most of us will probably end up being able to say, well, at least we have the NCAA tournament this year. At least we got the College World Series. That is better. But I don't think the programs that get jobbed out of hosting will be able to feel that way, especially if they go on the road and don't pull out a win. You never know. Sometimes this can spark a fire, I feel like, under a team, and they can really play that us against the world card and go on a run, and sometimes that works. We'll see. 803-404-6100 is the number into the program. If you missed the final scores over the weekend for the Gamecocks, it wasn't like they were completely dominated at Ole Miss, but it wasn't like there was just a play here or there that would have gotten them the series win. 4-run losses in the first 2 games, 5-1 in the series opener, 7-3 in game 1 of the doubleheader on Saturday. And then it was the last game of the series where I thought we would get something like we saw at Vandy, not a comeback win necessarily like we saw in the late innings there. That was dramatic, but at least salvaging a game to help you feel better about the weekend, to certainly help the numbers. 12-9 looks a lot better than 11-10, and coming off a series sweep, I think there's also just an emotional kick in the pants to your program. It takes the wind out of you for sure. But that's where Carolina is. 6-4 was the final score in that final game, even despite Wes Clark hitting his first home run in several weeks, getting that 16th homer of the year off the scoreboard there at Swayze Field. Carolina now 11-10 after a 10-5 start in SEC play. Mississippi State in town this weekend. And Patrick, you mentioned that Mississippi State sweeps over the weekend as well.
Yeah, I think I saw they swept Texas A&M.
So Texas A&M continuing to struggle in conference play for sure. Mississippi State continuing to roll. It's four series losses this season. 3 of those teams ranked 1, 2, and 3 in the country. Texas added into Vandy and Arkansas, and then Ole Miss, the other team that has been a really good team this year, was down to number 19 in the rankings this weekend, but will certainly shoot back up the rankings after sweeping the Gamecocks, who were right around, 13th, I think, 11, 13, somewhere in there. And they'll see that number drop today. And the challenge continues with Mississippi State, Tennessee, 2 of the final 3 series, along with Kentucky left for Carolina baseball. We need to take a quick break right now. You're listening to the early game here on 107.5 The Game. How's the coffee game this morning?
It's good. I need to drink less. So I'm trying to-
Said you need to drink less coffee?
yeah. I think last week I was getting a headache all the time. I need to drink coffee to calm better. I was on a run of drinking 4 pots every day for a couple weeks, maybe more. A full pot.
A full pot. I thought you said 4 pots at first.
No, just a full pot in 3 hours.
That'll do it.
Because what I always do is I take the lid off this thing and just cool it down so I can drink it fast. I've been trying to make sure this thing stays hot, so I'll take smaller sips. I even got tea K-cups in case I need to dial down the caffeine and just drink tea one day.
Oh boy.
But it wasn't nice. It wasn't good having like a massive headache and then drinking a cup of coffee and then feeling better and being like, oh, that's clearly the reason I didn't drink coffee today. I think it is franchise tag or a 5th-year option deadline day too.
I'll just see the other number. I'll give you the other number in the NFL draft here in the final segment.
What is Craig trying to say? Any drink coffee when it gets hot like this? You saying you don't drink coffee when it gets hot out, or
Nathan, it's 7:51. 7:50.
well, later in the week this will be almost bedtime for me. Not on Mondays though. I can't drink coffee when it gets hot like this. Okay.
Nathan, you need to join the 107.5 The Bar live streams, sir, clearly.
I can't drink. I mean, I love iced coffee, but I'll drink way too much of it if I have iced coffee. The only thing I just drink fast, like everything fast. Because I take big sips, and that's a problem.
Good for you, Nathan. Good for you. Excuse then if you're not working regular hours. You're coming off work. Good for you. But if you're coming off of work, I don't think you want the Red Bull going.
Yeah, you don't want Red Bull. I just see the word Edward trending on Twitter, and it's because of a Starbucks order.
Because of what?
Because of a Starbucks order, this person puts an online order that's like a caramel frappuccino, and that has all the extra instructions. 5 squirts of banana, extra caramel drizzle, extra whip, extra ice, extra cinnamon dollops, 7 pumps, add dark caramel sauce, 1 pump honey blend, extra salted, 5 pumps frap roast coffee, 7 add frat chips, heavy cream, double blended. Like, Starbucks people are wild. I will never be that type of coffee drinker.
How much would that cost?
It's all free additive. Like, you just tell them to, when you're that particular about how you want it to be, extra ice, double blended, this many pumps, this, that. Wow.
Ooh. I hear you, Craig. That'll do it. I wouldn't mess with coffee either.
Yeah. It's not great being in a truck at the middle of the summer either.
Looks like Jen's got another admirer.
Craig's always up early. Craig, what time do you go in? Because you need some sort of caffeine. I wouldn't know how you get there without it.
Mentioned 51 is the record that Alabama tied with 10 draft picks, a combined 51 now over 5 years, tying Southern Cal from the mid-70s. Another ridiculous number is 38 since 2010. That's how many first-round draft picks Alabama's had. That is more than the total amount of draft picks that other big-time programs have had, like Texas A&M, Washington, Oregon, South Carolina, and Texas. Impressive, though. The Gamecocks can feel better, Patrick, that they've had 3 more total draft picks than Texas since 2010. Nothing to be embarrassed about there.
No, 38 first-round picks is just outrageous.
So if we were that national show, we'd come in today and say, South Carolina just doesn't have a chance. These other teams don't have a chance. Fortunately, we're not that show. Hour 3 coming up. $30-ish. Is that AM or PM? Patrick, you got a handle on Craig's schedule there? Is he in?
I think he's 7 a.m.
He's got us wired up now. 30. Solid hours for sure. Gotcha, Craig. Gotcha.
Yeah, that is like 3 o'clock. 2 o'clock. Peyton tennis courts. We had to get in at dark because it gets too hot once the asphalt starts burning and the paint starts burning on the floor. It's just painful.
Now, where are you guys going? Green courts or blue courts?
We did both. We would get like the order during the day. They'd say this is what it's painted. Sometimes it'll be two-tone, which was annoying, but
was the price the same? Did they charge the same? Or?
I don't think so. I think it was probably more to do two-tone.
Right. And was blue more expensive than green?
I don't probably, honestly. Slightly more.
That's what I would have thought. They look nicer, I think.
Yeah. That was not a great job. It was very hot. And I just carried buckets because it was like skilled labor. It wasn't like I had to like roll out paint, like dump paint in a straight line, and they'd come in with this giant squeegee to make sure it was smooth. But that was a skilled job, the squeegee operator.
That would be an interesting conversation with the ladies. What do you do for work?
My squeegee.
All right, Patrick, what can we get going on the whiteboard there? Now you gave your sleepers going into the draft. You want to rank your top 5 teams?
Yeah, I can rank
round 1.
Yeah.
You can go top 5 and bottom 5 if you want, or top 3 and bottom 3. Jen, I'm so old. You know what I think about when Patrick starts going to his whiteboard? Picture pages. Did you ever watch that with the Bill Cosby?
Oh my gosh. Really?
Yep.
Boy, that's a flashback. Picture page.
The old Nickelodeon, I believe.
Wow. There's probably several people going, what
right.
was?
Oh, Patrick's getting serious now. Browns was automatically number 1. Number 2, a tougher choice, huh?
Yeah, I wrote down the classes that stood out to me, and there's 12 on this list, so I need to decide 5 of the 12.
I haven't gone through and evaluated because honestly, I don't have that talent, but Bears fans are really pretty thrilled with this class.
Yeah,
You know, there's
Are they
I
on
mean,
your
a
list
lot
as
of.
well?
they're on my list of 12. Yeah,
Are they?
I
They
assume
did-
the Panthers were on there as well.
Panthers are on here.
Let's see. Let's keep the guessing game going. Who else would be on that list? 49ers on that list?
No. There's some teams that just consistently, like, the Ravens aren't going to make my top 5, I don't think, but the Ravens just are such a smart organization. They draft well every single year.
Nathan wants the Colts on there. The Colts on there?
Nah, the Colts will potentially be on the bottom 5. But I didn't hate their class. Like, every team got better. Because
That'd be a heck of an NFL draft if you came out and said, yeah, I think we might have gotten worse.
I mean, some teams are worse than they were in 2020 than they are now, but
We got a lot of questionable characters here that are going to cause a lot of issues in our organization for years to come. Dolphins, huh? Okay, well, I'm guessing the Jaguars are on the list, even though Travis Etienne was on there. You probably didn't put him on there.
no, the Jags are on my list of 12, but I'm trying to decide, like, they had so many picks that it was going to be impossible for them not to have 4 or 5 players that I liked. So I'm trying to weigh it with, like, what you had available. I actually, because the Jets are in the same situation, but I like what the Jets do with their picks much more than the Jags.
You see the Lions celebration there in the draft room when they got Penei Sewell?
Oh, yeah.
Hilarious.
This was an identity draft for the Lions. Oh, shoot. That was probably a little
You're
bit.
going to bite people's kneecaps off. And the Chiefs, huh? Interesting.
All right. Who did I really not like? I have to go on the fly here.
What are the odds that Jen is talking to someone who wants to actually talk on the show?
Probably not high.
Yeah.
Probably not someone that has anything to say to us either.
A lot of hot weather tips. I mean, traffic tips.
Oh, this is easy.
Just reading this on AJC. Guess how many Georgia natives were taken in the first round of the NFL draft? Players originally from the state of Georgia.
12?
Oh, jeez, that's crazy.
I was
6.
thinking, okay. I was thinking the number would be crazy. Because somebody texted in on the halftime show last week. It was like, look, 2 South Carolina players taken in the first 8 picks. I was like, actually, they're both from Georgia. So
Lawrence.
We're heading back in.
Yeah, 32 picks, though. The one state gets 6 of them. That's pretty crazy. Especially a smaller state. I guess it's not that small. No way you can get all 5 before I start talking about it on the air. He's got about 30 more seconds.
Is that a mission? Should have it written on paper instead of a silly
Not gonna
computer
do it.
screen. All right, you're up.
Moseying on into hour number 3. Welcome in. Hope your week's off to a good start. We'd love to help you do that here on the early game. Patrick Perrette helping to really fill in for Bill Gunter this morning. It's Bill's birthday, so he's got today and tomorrow off celebrating. Feel free to throw him a happy birthday on Twitter at Will Gunter with 1L. Jen is celebrating Bill not being here, where the air is a little fresher, the Sky is a little bluer today. Is that fair? There it is. And I think we've worked through Patrick's doldrums to start this morning. The post NFL draft low that typically comes with this time of year. We've got him going on the whiteboard here. You can check that one out on the video stream, up and rolling on Facebook and YouTube Live, Twitter as well. The station handle at 1075 The Game. That video stream sponsored by Buford Lending. Patrick just arranged it where we see it beautifully now. We've gotten the specific marker, the right marker there shows up really well. The glare is doing pretty good today. Best NFL draft classes. Obviously, here on the home of the Gamecocks, talking about the 4 Gamecocks taken, and a little bit surprising that it wasn't 5. And Sedarius Hutcherson ended up signing a free agent deal with the Tampa Bay Bucks. It was Israel Mukuamu going in the 6th round to the Dallas Cowboys. If you haven't seen his video of that call, by the way, where he just is overcome with emotion, certainly recommend you check that out. The Gamecock football social media feeds. Another 6th rounder was Shi Smith going to the Carolina Panthers. Earlier, it was Ernest Jones all the way up in the 3rd round to the LA Rams. And Sean McVay mentioning in his call to Ernest Jones that Thomas Brown's evaluation, former Gamecock running backs coach, now assistant head coach there in LA, had a lot to do with that selection. And then J.C. Horn at number 8 overall going to the Carolina Panthers. We spoke a lot about that on Friday, the day after that happened. Patrick, go ahead. Your top 5 classes or your top 5 organizations that you think had the best NFL draft over the weekend.
Yeah, number 1, I think, is the Browns for sure. They've done the best job in the past, basically, year of building that roster out. They added John Johnson and Troy Hill from the Rams this offseason to bolster their secondary, which was a huge concern for them. Their offensive line is completely set, no need there. Their tight ends are set completely there. They mostly run 12 personnel, so Odell and Jarvis Landry is a fine 1-2. Their offense really was fine. They just needed to add to the defense, and they did it in a big way. Greg Newsome will be a day 1 contributor, whether he plays in the slot or whatever. He's just ready to go. Corner from Northwestern. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah was one of my favorite players in the draft. I wanted Washington to take him, but I guess he's not a scheme fit, and I'll defer to the coaches on that one. But he's just phenomenal. Just a freak athlete that covered slot receivers as a linebacker. Anthony Schwartz, fastest guy in the class. James Hudson, Tommy Togiai, 2 linemen on either side of the ball that are going to have a lot of potential. Tommy Togiai is strong as an ox and will definitely have some sort of role as a rookie. And then Richard LeCount from Georgia, Demetric Felton, running back / wide receiver from UCLA, and Marvin Wilson as an undrafted free agent. I just love what the Browns did. The Dolphins, it was going to be hard for them to screw it up, but in their first 4 picks, they got Jalen Waddle and Jalen Phillips. Jalen Phillips, I'm scared of that pick a little bit because obviously he's already retired from the sport once because of concussions, and as a defensive lineman, it's going to be hard to not ever get another concussion, and who knows what's going to happen if that actually occurs. I mean, he's going to be in the same division as Josh Allen. Like if Josh Allen takes a read option and puts his shoulder into Jalen Phillips' head, I mean, that could be a concussion right there. Josh Allen's 230 pounds, whatever he is. That's just a little scary. So, but as a player, he's just phenomenal. So the value there is probably worth it. Then Javon Holland, who didn't play last year, but's an awesome slot corner / safety from Oregon, and Liam Eichenberg, who is a little undersized, but he's just a good football player. He's a tackle from Notre Dame, and that's what they do is they just develop offensive line talent. And then Hunter Long, do-it-all tight end from Boston College. Like that a lot. The Dolphins got a lot better. Number 3 is the Lions. Dan Campbell came in and talked about biting kneecaps in his opening press conference, and this was a really they just got bigger and stronger, basically. Like, this is an identity draft for the Lions. The Lions are going to beat you up. And they drafted Penei Sewell with their first pick, Levi Onwuzurike from Washington, who is a really explosive athlete in the trenches. And I can't say some of his lines, but I mean, he's got the attitude that they're going to like in Detroit. Aleem McNeil is a nose tackle for North Carolina State, who was a really highly coveted recruit. He's out of Raleigh, was recruited by everybody. Bama, got offers everywhere, and decided to stay home. And if he didn't go to North Carolina State, people would probably talk about him a lot more. But he is going to be a monster inside for them. And then Afitu Melifonwu, if you remember Obi Melifonwu a couple years ago, who broke the combine and got drafted in the first round by the Raiders, was kind of a bust. This is his younger brother, who's also a freak athlete, like 6'2" corner with all sorts of measurables. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown is the younger brother of Equanimous St. Brown, and there's another one out there that's still in college. They're just a family of freak athletes, so I like him in the 4th round. And their 7th round pick, Jamar Jefferson, is a running back from Oregon State that doesn't get talked about very much, but I like him a lot too. The Jets, it's hard to screw up with all the picks that they had, but I do like Zach Wilson a lot. Elijah Vera Tucker is going to be a plug-and-play guy, whether it's a tackle or guard. They traded up to make sure they got him in the 1st round. Elijah Moore was awesome. You just watch him play against South Carolina, you'd say, yeah, that's definitely a 1st round pick. Michael Carter, this is where I like the Jets more than the Jags. Like Michael Carter from North Carolina is a jitterbug of a running back. Like I like him a lot, and I would much rather have him in the 4th round than Travis Etienne in the 1st round. And then Jamian Sherwood from Auburn is a big hitter, big box safety, and Hamza Nasruddin from Florida State has all sorts of versatility. The Chiefs didn't have a ton of picks to work with because they traded for Orlando Brown from the Ravens, but with their 2nd round picks, they got Creed Humphrey, who was a 4-year starter on the Oklahoma offensive line, and Nick Bolton, who, if you watch Missouri play, South Carolina was in the backfield on every single play. I just love him as a football player. And they got Cornell Powell from Clemson, who is did all the dirty work for 3 years before finally getting in the starting lineup and having a huge senior year. And Trey Smith, who was a former 5-star left tackle from Tennessee that moved down to guard, he lasted until the 6th round, which is crazy. So I really like what the Chiefs did.
I like that you mentioned that you like Nick Bolton as a football player, just not as a human being. You don't play.
No, I like him as I'm sure he's a good human being, but
not romantically.
No, not romantically. But that's what he doesn't have. Like he's a little bit smaller, like maybe not the fastest guy in the world, but like that's what the coach looks at him and just says, yeah, it's just a football player. Like he's not going to jump off the screen as an athlete, but he just plays football. He wants to hit, he craves contact, and he's always in the backfield and has a nose for the ball. So I just love watching him play. He's an absolute missile when he locates the football.
Okay, so let's narrow it down now to the Gamecocks draft class specifically. We talked a lot about J.C. Horn already, number 8 to the Carolina Panthers. What about now that I think more draft analysts have weighed in over the weekend? What do you think about, I think even some Panthers fans, some Panthers/Gamecock fans feel like they might have made a reach for him at number 8 overall. The Panthers saying he was the number 1 guy on their board. Let's start with J.C. Horn, then we'll go to Ernest Jones, and then a couple of 6th-round picks. I guess you can put Horn together actually with Shi Smith since the Panthers took him as well in the 6th round.
Yeah. I mean, I still think the Panthers could have gotten better use out of that pick just for what their needs are. And if J.C. Horn had ended up in Dallas or New York or something like that, it would have been a better fit. But if they truly think that he was the best player, then I'm fine. I mean, if that's how you evaluate him, then go. That's good for you. I like what the Panthers did through the rest of their draft, more or less. I mean, I just wish they would have gone. If they picked Rashawn Slater with their first pick and then everything else was the same in the rest of their draft, I would have said Nick Panthers had an absolute home run and they would be in my top 5 list right here. Shi Smith in the 6th round is an awesome value for them. So whether he's their 4th receiver or 5th receiver, he'll catch a couple balls next year and he'll be a useful part of that offense going forward. So I love it for him. The Ernest Jones pick, I just like for his sake because clearly the Rams are very invested in him. I mean, the Rams, again, don't have 1st-round picks. I guess today is the first day that they can now trade their next 1st-round pick because you're only allowed to trade them like 5 years in advance, and the Rams have completely maxed that out. So maybe they'll trade that other pick soon. But, I mean, he's the 2nd player they drafted. The 40th pick in the 3rd round was only their 2nd pick, and he was only drafted after Tutu Atwell, who was 149 pounds, which is a crazy pick. And the Rams almost made my bottom 5 list. But I think the commitment level they showed to Ernest Jones will indicate that he's probably going to start right away for them. And I don't know if he needs to get faster. That's why I thought he was going to probably not be as high as he went. His sideline to sideline speed isn't crazy, but I just think he's such a smart player and he's very instinctive and he's going to be a leader for that defense. And their linebackers are bad, so they need him. I'm very confident in Ernest Jones being a day 1 starter for them.
Mukuamu not necessarily in that mold in a 6th-round pick that you wouldn't expect necessarily to step right in there, which seems to be a pretty good situation actually for him in Dallas, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a young secondary, a new coaching staff that's going to be in no hurry. They'll be able to develop him. Like if he's a practice squad guy, I wouldn't be surprised necessarily. 6th-round pick going to a practice squad is not super rare, but he's going to be on that team in some way, shape, or form. And I don't think he'll end up playing corner in the NFL. I think he'll end up being a safety. So if they can sit him at one spot and say this is what you need to do, rather than getting jerked back and forth, I don't think Will Muschamp did him any favors in college. Moving him from safety to 1 week corner, 1 week safety, 1 week. Like, he wants to cross train all his guys, sure, but in the NFL, that's not what you do. You're going to have more of a set position. And if Mukwamu can just stay at safety, learn his role there, and get better at that, and not worry about everything else, I think that'll be good for him a lot more.
And that brings us to the flip side of your whiteboard there. You got the best classes to start with, top 5 there. What about the bottom 5 as he flips over? So the Panthers were in consideration for that top 12 spot. Obviously, I mean, that top 5 spot, you said you wrote down 12 organizations you are impressed with. Now, this top one here, are you just going to be anti-Texans, or
kind of
can you back it up?
Yeah, it kind of is. But the problem is they only had a couple picks to begin with. They didn't have a first or a second round pick. And with their first pick, they draft a quarterback. So you're either throwing in – it seems like they're throwing in the towel on Deshaun Watson. I saw that Deshaun Watson jerseys are going for 50% off at some places around Houston. If that's what the deal is, then okay. But, you know, you just taking a flyer on a quarterback in Davis Mills that's played 7 games last year, played a couple games before that. So has one of the least experienced quarterbacks in the class by a long shot. And their team is so bad that it's like, all right, is this going to fix you? No, probably not. And then after that, they traded up in the 3rd round for Nico Collins. And just when you have as few picks as Texans did to begin with, you're not in a position to be trading up for anyone, especially a wide receiver. I mean, that's just the least of their problems. And they're still just a very, very bad team. And I don't like it because they're going to be in the running. If Davis Mills is their starting quarterback, they're going to be in the running for the number 1 pick next year. And if they have the number 1 pick, it's like, all right, well, we've now used our top picks 2 years in a row on quarterbacks. They're obviously not going to just stand by Davis Mills if they're the worst team in football. They're going to go get Spencer Rattler. So I hate it. The Steelers, I mentioned earlier, I just think they got some good football players. Their first 2, Najee Harris and Pat Freiermuth, are really good football players. Pat Freiermuth is such a Steeler and probably should have realized that he was going to be a Steeler in the first place, because that's just what they do. They get gritty tight ends. But Najee Harris, and then not really doing enough to help out the offensive line. Big Ben is just going to be throwing the ball the second it touches his hands again this year. And the Steelers are going to be I think the Steelers are going to be a bad team. I think the 11-0 was a fluke last year, clearly by how their season unfolded, and I think it's going to be a bad season for them. I think they're going to come in at least 3rd place in the division. They could be a last place team depending on how the Bengals develop this year. I know Nathan was asking about the Colts on the live stream, but yeah, the Colts I just don't think did enough to really fit their needs. They went edge rusher with their first 2 picks. Kwity Paye has as much upside as anyone in the class. He is a freak athlete, tested off the charts. And then Dio Adenigbo, I think is how you say it, from Vanderbilt. Tore his ACL, didn't play last year, but he's got a lot of traits to work with. So I mean, the Colts are going to have a lot of talent to mold there. I know Robert Mathis is a big part of developing pass rushers there, so there's not really anybody better to learn from. The Packers might have been a cheap shot too, because they have some players that I like. I really like Amari Rodgers from Clemson. They got him in the 3rd round. I think he might even end up playing running back for them. But drafting Eric Stokes in the 1st round was a reach. His over-under was like in the 40s. So that was a reach, especially when they're in a public beef with Aaron Rodgers, and they've notably never drafted a skill player for him. The only offensive player they've drafted in the last 10 years was a quarterback. So just complete stupidity by that organization. And might be a little bit of a cheap shot, but I don't really like what they have ever done in the draft. So I put the Packers on that list. And then last place, it hurts me to do it, but I'm putting the Saints. I just think the Saints are going to take a huge step back. Peyton Turner is a developmental player from Houston. Pete Warner doesn't have much upside. Paulson Adebo from Stanford is limited in what he can do. And what does Ian Book do for your organization? I don't really know. You have James Winston, you have Taysom Hill. Adding Ian Book to the mix, I don't know what it is. Maybe they really just think that Sean Payton can make him into a franchise quarterback. I don't like him at all. I don't think he's that good. I think it was a wasted pick, but there you go.
Well, a little depth, a guy that can run it as well as throw it. Maybe he fits in with those other guys that they have right now, or what they're asking guys to do, just from a depth standpoint. I get that. Fill out your
Anytime Sean
quarterback
Payton
roster.
drafts a quarterback, people are going to look at it positive, look at it favorably because, I mean, who knows the quarterback's better than that guy? Not many people.
Speaking of looking at it favorably, Anthony from Kershaw. This is just beautiful. Well, you did sponsor the whiteboard. I'm glad you approved there, Anthony. Good to hear from you, sir. 803-404-6100. If you would like to jump in on the show, get into more of the details of the Gamecocks' latest commit. It happened late Friday. Quarterback from the state of Delaware, third commit in the class of 2022 for Shane Beamer. Also, kind of where Carolina football is on the calendar right now, about a month away from official visits, starting back up after a near year-long plus dead period in NCAA recruiting because of COVID issues. Also get back into Carolina baseball. Tough sweep over the weekend to Ole Miss, where they sit now as it pertains to being able to host an NCAA regional and in the SEC. We'll get into all of that as we continue to roll on this morning. 803-404-6100. Again, if you would like to call or text, it's the early game on 107.5.
Home of the Gamecocks and new head football coach, Shane Beamer.
I'm a process-driven person, and we're going to start day one advancing this program.
Oh, man. Yeah, Nick Bolton is a problem. I was trying to think of the players who stood out the most against South Carolina last year, and Nick Bolton definitely did. Elijah Moore definitely did. Who else, like, individually dominated us? Can't even really remember.
Trying to think. Seth Williams stood out the least, or the
Right.
most, the weakest side. He was a 6th-round pick, I think.
Yeah. But I was at the Missouri game. That was the one game I went to last year, and it's just you saw 32 of those dreads on every single tackle standing up. That kid was just a monster.
Who else last year? Oh, the freshman quarterback for LSU.
Yeah. And then the freshman pass rusher, BJ Ojolari, was also in on every play. But I'm just trying to think of like the most dominant performances against South Carolina. Who's in there? Who's like really memorable?
Kellen Mond. It was basically the entire A&M team did whatever they wanted to.
Yeah.
When you say most memorable, I would say like least memorable, like wanting to erase the memory so quickly.
Yeah. But I mean, it's like last year or 2 years ago when Henry Ruggs, right at the beginning of the game, took that slant to the house and was untouched. That's one of those moments where you're like, oh, he is different level of fast than everybody else on the field right now. And it makes sense when you see him drafted like he was. Some things when you see him in person are just, they kind of hit differently. Do you have a thought on the football coach?
The Kansas football coach? No, it's a Buffalo guy, right? Lance Leipold.
I don't know.
Good coach so far. If you can win at Kansas, he'll be gone in 3 years max, right?
Right.
South Carolina's a better job for sure, but not by much. Kansas has got to be the worst in the Power 5, right?
Yeah. I don't know. What is Vandy a bad job?
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
I don't know. There's always there is a level to which you can fail and still keep your job. That's a little bit positive.
Right. Awesome, Alan. That sounds like a blast, man. I was talking to somebody who does, I don't know if it's ShotLink exactly, but it's basically, charting shots at Augusta, the Masters. He absolutely loves it.
What is ShotLink?
Good gig. What's that?
What is ShotLink?
I'm guessing it's how they chart everything. And so you just have to, I'm thinking, Alan, you can tell us more, but you just have to make sure the information gets entered after every shot. You sit on a hole and you make sure that all the stats are in correctly.
What is it? What is when they hit the ball and you can see the tracker? Is that via cameras or is something in the ball?
I think that's got to be cameras, because I don't think they put anything in the balls.
I'll say I think the players would be against them putting something in the balls, right?
Yeah, I think that's just their ability to track that movement. Like, I'm guessing if you threw something up in the air, it would track that too.
Do you think it's spot on, like exactly spot on?
Seems to be.
I feel like it's the same. It's the same thing they do with home run data in the MLB, right?
Right.
Whatever.
Estimate.
I feel like they're inconsistent with those numbers.
In baseball, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, because you'll see like a 490-foot home run that lands in the barely crosses the wall, and you're like, what? What?
I'm guessing some places are probably more accurate than others. Like how they got Founders Park now, it seems to be pretty good. You got it wired pretty good, and that data comes out pretty quick on the old Twitter handle.
Yeah, I know. Great. I know it's a shot tracer, but I'm asking how are they tracing the shots? Many cameras from many angles following it simultaneously, I guess. Got to be some speedometer or whatever in there.
There's little gremlins and trees clocking it.
Nice.
Did you see the whole thread on the Diamondbacks page over the weekend, by the way?
Yeah, it was hilarious. About the
first date?
Yeah, second date.
Second date.
Yeah, we'll try to mention that at the end, maybe.
There was a pretty impressive catch at the Phillies game yesterday as well. From a foul ball catch.
Where does Matt want to take Grill Bill / Grill Patrick? Do you have a theme I can tease?
He did not mention that.
Excellent. Even better.
I probably should have asked a few questions, but I figured the element of surprise wasn't all bad this time.
It is really cool, Craig, for sure. I'm so spoiled that if I'm watching golf without that, I'm like, why am I even watching? They're just guessing. Oh, I'm just watching the ball in the air. Great. It takes 2 whole seconds for me to figure out where that shot goes. This is brutal. Oh, so that sounds like an easy gig, man. All you got to do is determine whether it's on the fringe or on the green, whether it's in the fairway or in the rough. Great gig.
Wow. Huh, that's pretty cool.
Great gig, but it does turn into a bit of a golf grind. I hear you about that, Craig. Green and regulation percentage of 5.
All right, we're heading back in.
I think I'll probably get you going here early, Patrick. Nice, Chris.
Guys, Rip.
Hot Take Hotline always there for you 24/7. 803-978-6654 is the number. 978-6654. If you ever need to vent, maybe we're not in show hours or something specific is going on, you just need to get it out there. That's what that Hot Take Hotline's for. It's sponsored by Twin Peaks for the men who never settle. Go see it down in the Vista at 600 Gervais Street. Sounds like some of you out there could have used it over the weekend just to get out some venom about the NFL draft and hearing too much about it or the whole thing. Patrick, how is the NFL draft? How does that compare? You're an NFL draft guy. How do you compare to being more of a Bill Gunter, resident recruiting nerd guy?
Well, I just think it's a more informed and a little more normal path because you get to watch the guys in college, which you're doing anyway. You're watching them against more equal competition. Like, yeah, Trey Lance is playing against a bunch of accountants and things like that. But, I mean, when you watch a kid in high school, he's playing against literally children that, like, could be on any level of physical development. And most of them are probably going to be doing, like, keg stands in college rather than actually playing football. So it's completely – the level of competition is so difficult to determine. Like, I don't know. And then, of course, in the NFL draft, when you pick a player, he's actually going to be on your team. And especially in the more recent years, I've gotten more jaded. And when I see a commitment, I still don't even get that excited. Like, I want to be very, very pumped about this quarterback commit, Braden Davis. But, I mean, you've already had a quarterback in that class decommit from your school. So it's like, until he's on the dotted line, I'll believe it. I'll believe it when I see it. But because even on signing day now, you see dozens of kids flipping on signing day as well. So
I don't think you see as many flips these days as you used to. And are you saying that Gunnar Stockton and his decommitment when Will Muschamp was let go, is that what broke you in recruiting, or did
no, not
else
necessarily. It's just not necessarily. It's just they're kids. They're kids that change their minds a lot. And then the earlier they commit, the less confident I am in that commitment holding in a lot of ways. Like, we did say Braden Davis committed without even touring the facilities. He's just been on campus by himself, basically. So I would think that once he's able to do an official visit and check everything out, he's only going to be more firm in his commitment. That's what I would like to believe. But again, when you read his offer list, like, what would happen if like Ohio State offered him a scholarship in a couple months? Like, would he still be firm? Ohio State's a bad example because they have a million five-star quarterbacks committed. But when more offers start coming in late in the process, can you trust a 17-year-old kid to honor his commitment? Like, you can't hold it against him. He's an actual child.
But you did see that with the Ryan Helinski recruiting process, where South Carolina got on him early, and then it was other big-time programs like Stanford and Southern Cal coming into the mix. I know a lot of Gamecock fans were very concerned and following that closely. My takeaway from all this is, all right, look at it now. And putting all that effort and emotion into holding on to a commitment. Yeah. So it just so rarely turns out to pay off in a college career that has a drastic impact on the program. That's what boggles my mind about guys who are following it so closely and fans who follow it so closely. And then the ugliness, I think, is kind of what you touched on there, Patrick, of fans who get personal. And I feel like it's the same fan, right? Those fans can positively impact recruiting, no doubt about it, and be a part of a passionate fan base and what gets recruits to a school. But then if those kids change their mind, or if they end up making a decision the other way, I feel like those are also the same fans that will cross the line and go personal, and it's inane.
No, but it's also even more so than just decommitting now. Like, with the transfer rules, I mean, just look at Georgia. Like, Justin Fields, all that effort that goes into recruiting a Justin Fields and how excited the fan base is, and then he's gone after 1 year, and you're like, oh, all this wasted energy. Like, what if Braden Davis came in and Colton Gauthier looks like he's going to take over and he's going to be a really good quarterback, and Braden Davis is now stuck behind him for another couple of years, and he said, you know what? Forget this. I'm transferring. Cincinnati, because I can start right away. I'm going to Cincinnati. Like, it's so easy for the kids to leave now that it's like not worth getting too emotionally invested in. Like, you can get excited, but don't get too emotionally invested in this.
Well, maybe this will help the recruiting industry to a large degree, and fans who follow recruiting evolve a little bit as well to more kind of what you're doing, saying following college players is a little bit different than following high school players. Well, if you're following the transfer market, you got to follow these college players and know what's going on at other programs. This year, a great example, Jordan Strachan over at Georgia State, leading the country in sacks, coming to Carolina. You've seen other transfers certainly pop in, Amarian Brown from Georgia Tech, and I would be surprised if you don't see a few more before Carolina kicks it off this fall. Braden Davis is the quarterback out of the state of Delaware, 6'5", 195, rated a 4-star prospect. I've seen pro style. I've seen dual threat. It's weird how that's all characterized these days, and I feel like that might be a more of an older way that the recruiting industry used to do it that doesn't quite apply these days? You seem like
The quarterback thing is crazy. Yeah, the quarterback thing is crazy. Like, no, they're calling him a dual threat on, I think, Rivals and 24/7, or Rivals and ESPN. But then, or no, sorry, 24/7 has him as a dual threat. I think Rivals has him as a pro style. And then ESPN has pocket passer versus dual threat, and they have him as a dual threat too. So it's just like, some of them are ridiculous. Like, I'm pretty sure Tua Tagovailoa came out as a dual threat, because I go back and look at some of the recruiting profiles during draft time, and it's like, oh, well, he's not a dual threat. Like, he's a little bit mobile. Like, he can move outside the pocket. But he's not a dual threat quarterback. I think dual threat, and I think Lamar Jackson, Cam Newton. Like, I don't think Braden Davis is that type of player. It gets people like way too excited because they see dual threat and they're like, oh, here we go. Like, now we've got the next. I think somebody on the live stream said we got the next Cam Newton. No, please hold back.
Well, isn't another way to hype things up? And I get it if you're done with NFL draft hype and you feel like you've heard too much in the whole thing. But I agree with you, Patrick. At least those guys have proven they can play college football. And NFL organizations are making investments based off that production, which is a little bit more scientific. It's still a crapshoot, don't get me wrong, but it's a little bit more scientific than just the sheer amount of numbers. When you're talking about 130 Division I college football programs with 85 scholarships and however many tens or hundreds of thousands of high school football players that are out there, the crapshoot is just on a complete another level and completely less scientific. But it's another way. If you split quarterbacks up into a couple of categories, right, then you can have higher rated quarterbacks. When you're trying to get fan bases involved or other people involved out there, because you're talking about, I've seen the number 4 dual threat quarterback in the country. What does that mean? And how do you rate those dual threat quarterbacks versus pro style quarterbacks? It is a little ridiculous for sure, but it also is important. We understand. I don't want to throw it totally to the side because recruiting guys will come back with, well, look at these programs that have been ranked really high in recruiting. There is a direct correlation to those programs going to the college football playoff. And you got to have guys. There's no doubt about it. The question is, how much stock do you put in the evaluation that these players are going to turn out to be really good college football players? And at the top, I think the evaluations are pretty consistent. They're really pretty good. But I'm talking about the top, 50 players in the country, maybe 100. And then outside of that, I think that's when it gets really squirrely. What Braden, the part that I hate about it from the Gamecock perspective is a guy like Braden Davis. And you put him in the same category as, well, let's try to do it in chronological order, right? Colton Gauthier is the guy on campus now. Before him, it was obviously the starting quarterback for the Gamecocks now in Luke Doty. And I think that fueled fire when he was moved to wide receiver briefly or played a little bit there and the whole thing. Before that, it was Ryan Helinski. And you can keep going down the list, and Brandon McElwain and Jake Bentley and the whole deal. Other ones that haven't worked out hardly at all. Cade Thompson was Steve Spurrier's first quarterback. And you can go down the list, Steven Garcia and the whole thing. But these kids come in, and there is a certain section of the fan base that is absolutely convinced they are going to turn the program around. And by the way, it's not completely illogical, because I saw in 1992 when Steve Tannehill stepped on the field for the Gamecocks and took a team that was not good, 1-5, I think, and finished 5-1. Well, maybe it was 1-4 and finished 5-1 because you've only played 11 games like that back in those days. I saw it. And we all know quarterback is such an important position, right? We saw Jake Bentley do it to a lesser degree, turn a 2-4 team into a 4-2 team down the stretch. But you so rarely see it. We just saw Ryan Helinski not pan out at all. And maybe he'll go on to a great career at Northwestern, and Will Muschamp's career reputation of just crushing quarterbacks will only be magnified and multiplied. We don't know. Yeah. But just from a sheer number standpoint, you bring in a quarterback typically in every class, sometimes 2. And for 4-year college careers, it just can't work out. Will be interesting to see, though, the impact now that this commitment has on the Carolina class, as in-person recruiting starts in a month, and you actually get the first on-campus visits for Shane Beamer and company, and with the new head coach and the new coaching staff, and still pretty brand new facilities, how Carolina can start to compete in recruiting, because that was a given with Will Muschamp. That was the given, right? That he knew how to recruit at an SEC level, and he did it in his Carolina career. It was that development, though, that you mentioned in some of those NFL organizations that they're known for. That's what you didn't see under Will Muschamp the last several years, and obviously something that has to change with Shane Beamer and company.
Yeah, because I mean, the way South Carolina recruits to Alabama can't be compared. When you're talking about all 5 stars versus 3 and 4 stars, that's not the comparison. The comparison you make is the other teams in your area that are bringing in mostly 4 and 3 star players and how you develop them from there. So yeah, and then with the quarterbacks, like, I get that it's really fun to just project years down the road. Like 2 years ago, we were going to go from Brian Hilinski, then he was going to go to the NFL, then Luke Doty was going to start for 2 years, then he was going to go to the NFL, then Gunnar Stockton was going to come in, and he was going to start for 2 years, and he was going to go to the NFL. But that only works at Oklahoma, where you go from Baker to Kyler to Spencer Rattler, or to Jalen Hurts, then to Spencer Rattler, then you're going to go to Caleb Williams. All of them are going to go to the NFL, and none of them will leave. But in reality, like 2 years ago, that's what we said. Brian Hilinski to Doty to Stockton. Well, Hilinski's transferred and Stockton's going to Georgia. So Luke Doty's the only one left. So realistically, when we start looking down the road, and Doty will go pro after his junior year, then Gauthier will start it for a year, and then we'll bring in Braden Davis, and he'll start for however many years. Like, realistically, all 3 of them probably will not be at the program at some point. So I get the excitement level, but when you're working in reality, like, only one quarterback can play at a time. Kids don't like being backups. Transfer portal is huge. So, I mean, I think the more important thing is what you brought up, like what the Braden Davis commitment will do for the rest of the class, because kids want to play with high-level quarterbacks. So maybe, especially in that region, if you're trying to get like a stranglehold on the Northeast, or at least the DC, Maryland, Virginia, Delaware, that sort of area right there, then that's a good place to start. The best quarterback in that region.
Oh, your geographic region of origin will be one of the topics, maybe the topic that Matt B hits us up on as Grill Bill turns into Grill Patrick when we come back. Dramatic conclusion of the show. Also touch on Carolina baseball over the weekend. The latest rankings are out. You're listening to the early game here on 107.5 The Game. Talking about timing as it pertains to maybe recruiting or the NFL draft. Obviously, you want to peak at the best point. Going to talk about that with college baseball. Also, great timing if you're looking to get into a new kind of mortgage, maybe refinance the mortgage, or just what you can get from a great lender. I recommend you check out Buford Lending. Give them a call. 843-524-2404 is the number. And Benji Getzi and his team down at Buford Lending, plenty of experience, 25 years of experience. And all Benji's asking is that you add him to your list. We probably have some relationships out there. If you've done the mortgage thing before, definitely check out the same people you've worked with. But just add Benji to your list. See what kind of numbers he can come up for you, because I know firsthand experience. I just went through the process, I think it's 2 weeks ago now. Very simple process. You plug in some information, and then Benji showed me the numbers that I could get. I was really impressed. Made me encouraged about trying to upsize the current house with the growing family and make a move at this point, because the market is fantastic. Refinancing is a tremendous option right now as well. And Buford Lending is a great option for you. Give Benji Getzi and his team a call down at Buford Lending. Again, the phone number for Buford Lending, 843-524-2404.
Tim, I just realized that you can just
Take my run to the bathroom usual this time.
Yeah.
You good?
Yeah. All right. Yeah, great. That agreed. 2 5-star guys, a year apart. They're not both going to stay at Georgia. Stockton's not going to be a backup for 3 years. Yeah. You have to subscribe to see the rankings on D1 Baseball's website. D1 Baseball rankings top 25. I'm seeing them. Oh, I'm seeing South Carolina at 19. So Hope is saying 15 in Baseball America. I'm seeing 19 on D1 Baseball. Yikes. Fields should have never gone to Georgia. Georgia should have never not played Justin Fields clearly after how Drake Fromm took them. Yeah, I'm seeing it right now. Maybe there's like a certain amount of times you can view it before they make you subscribe. I have seen that before. Are you saying a subscription costs money? Let's see, subscribe. That would be pretty ridiculous. Yeah. $119 a year or $15 a month? Come on. Yeah, Ole Miss jumped up 7 spots to number 12. So South Carolina took number 19 in D1 Baseball, which Ole Miss was last week. South Carolina dropped 6 spots in the D1 Baseball poll.
So they basically they just switched?
Just about, yeah.
Oh, man, my guy falling down here. Tape's all done.
Uh-oh.
Golf towel. Pink. Not exactly a of art back there. Right.
Tim, I realized that you can just slide the boxes and flip people around.
Yeah. Oh, you did?
I did it on accident and dropped myself at the bottom row. But yeah, if you just click the picture and move it around, you can
Wow.
everybody's heads everywhere you want.
Solo layout. Oh, you just automatically pop yourself in there too.
Without seeing him yet, Marshall and Lloyd third round or better. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm going with.
Classic.
I don't know how to project Kevin Harris, though. I really don't.
Yeah, he's much hype, huh? Mike Davis? No, he doesn't have. Well, I guess he does have the speed. I think that's a pretty good comp, don't you think, Patrick? Mike Davis?
Yeah, Harris has what? Probably. How tall is Kevin Harris?
5'10", I think. Right?
Only 5'10"? Okay, so he's got like an inch and what, 10 or so pounds, 10, 15 pounds on Mike Davis.
Really? I don't know. Davis is house.
He's thick, but I don't know. Maybe it's just the college versus playing against college players versus watching Mike Davis play against pro players. Mike Davis looks like stout but short out there almost.
We hear you.
Let's see. I'm seeing 5'9", 215 for Mike Davis, 5'10", 45 for
all over it.
That's about right.
Quick update on Carolina baseball. Patrick, I know you did it during the break on the live video stream, but basically in the D1Baseball.com poll, Ole Miss and South Carolina switching spots. Ole Miss was number 19 and Carolina was 13 last week. I believe Ole Miss up to number 12 and the Gamecocks down to 19 now. I think Hope told us another baseball poll out there. Baseball America might have the Gamecocks at 15. Puts them, they're on the cusp for sure of hosting a regional, one of 16 sites. Again, that will be announced a week from today, but I think the way the NCAA is doing it is putting 20 sites out there and saying they will have them narrowed down to the final 16 after the season. So it's going to take a good series against Mississippi State, and certainly Carolina competing well in their last regular season series against Tennessee. They've got Kentucky in between there left on the regular season schedule right now, though it's coming down the stretch. And again,
4 series, all to really good teams. Getting swept at Ole Miss wasn't pretty, but it doesn't end your chances of what you want to do. Just going to have to play better as the weeks continue and as the season winds down here. As our show winds down, we're going to finish strong here. Grill Bill is what we do every Monday. It's brought to you by the South Carolina Pork Board, its member farmers, IGA Food Stores, and Camp Chef Pellet Grill. And today it kind of morphs into Grill Patrick with Bill Gunter being off on his birthday. Matt B joining us on the Love Chevy phone lines this morning. Matt, congratulations. You get a $50 IGA gift card, and you qualify to win that grand prize of the Camp Chef Pellet Grill worth more than $1,000. Sound good to you?
That sounds fantastic. That's a lot of Vienna sausages and saltines I can buy.
Attaboy. Well done. You're eating big time. First class, just like our buddy Patrick here. All right, you're going Patrick is a Maryland native, so you're going more of a mid-Atlantic theme with your grill, Patrick, today?
In the non-existent journalism classes that I took in college, I learned that you know your audience. You tailor-made it to your audience. So that's what I'm doing today.
There you go. Excellent. All right, I'll get out of your way. This is the first ever Grill Patrick with Matt B. Go ahead, sir.
So 2005 cinematic classic Wedding Crashers. Crab cakes and football. Are those truly all that Maryland does?
What else do we do?
I mean, those are
no.
If you're asking me,
I would say crab cakes and lacrosse.
What Maryland does.
Good answer.
I don't think lacrosse had hit the mainstream yet. It probably still hasn't hit the mainstream, but we're getting close.
I don't think Maryland football's hit the mainstream.
Jake Funk did just get drafted.
All right, Matt. Good solid first question.
You got one for the rest of your life, and only one. The NFL draft are eating anything containing sugar.
Ooh, that's good, Matt. That is really good.
I couldn't not watch the draft. I truly couldn't. I don't know what I would do for the rest of the year. It gives me a purpose.
I watch college football as well. If I'm watching a game that I clearly have no rooting interest, I'll figure out who the draft prospects are in that game, and it'll give me a reason to watch it. It'll give me a reason to watch when it's 56-7 in the fourth quarter of a game. And it's just eternal hope. Like for many fan bases, any Browns fan would understand it. Any Jets or Jaguars fan. It's the same for Washington. The draft is your Super Bowl because it's the one day where you say, hey, this is where it all turns around. The draft day of Robert Griffin being the number 2 overall pick to Washington was one of the most excited days I've ever been as a sports fan in my entire life. I wouldn't trade that for anything.
He'd turn into a jacked Patrick.
I would eat so much
salt.
It'd be ridiculous. My study take would be through the roof.
All right, Matt. Nice first 2 questions. You got any more for him?
All right, number 3. Anne Arundel. City in Maryland are loosely moral girl you want to take to prom but are too embarrassed to introduce to your mom.
I don't know where I can
appropriately go with this one.
It is Indiana County in Maryland. It's actually very close to where my dad grew up and my family lives right now. Hey, I guess that'll be the FCC regulated answer.
Good answer. Well done.
Man, I got a couple more if we still got some time.
Let's go rapid fire, man.
Yeah. I'm a noted mayonnaise hater, but I like eggs and I like oil. So what's up with that?
I don't know, because I love mayonnaise. But the problem is it just has to be spread. Any like dollops of mayonnaise, I'm avoiding. I'll never dip anything in mayonnaise. I know people like to dip their fries in mayonnaise, but mayonnaise is not a dip; it's only a spread. I think you should probably give it another chance. Mayo and mustard on a deli sandwich is actually a requirement. What else would you put on it? What else would you put on like a ham sandwich? Mayo.
No, I'm strictly a mustard dude.
Just mustard
mustard
by
by
itself.
Can't believe you guys didn't rehearse
Yeah.
that. What else you got, Matt?
What's up with people's weird obsession with feet?
I hate
I
feet.
hate feet.
I hate they are gross. Socks all the time. Socks on the beach. I don't care. Socks by the pool. I'm actually with you on this.
I respect that a lot. Last question, real quick. Why is Crab Cakes and Football not the name of your podcast?
Great call.
I like the actual crabs. I like picking crabs more than I like eating crab cakes. And outside of Maryland, nobody knows how to make a crab cake because they put filling on the inside, and it's just brutal. But I like the mustard from the crab. I like the social aspect of picking crabs. Picking crabs is better than crab cakes by a mile.
Matt, excellent job in our first ever Grill Patrick. Congratulations on your $50 IGA gift card, and good luck in that Camp Chef Pellet Grill grand prize drawing.
Lots of sausage.
It's going out,
Thank you, fellas.
dropping the mic. Well done, Matt. Brought to you by the South Carolina Pork Board, by the way. That's Grill Patrick instead of Grill Bill. His new podcast title, I Like Crabs.
Gamecock Athletics Director Ray Tanner, and you're listening to
Well, I'm
107.5
thinking it's
The
better than
Game,
saying I have.
WNKT FM, Eastover, Columbia.
For sure.
I'd actually be stunned if there's not a podcast on crab cakes and football.
Right, for sure. Thank you, KC. Yeah, Hope. I agree. Patrick, excellent work.
Thank you. That was fun. I like.
And I had this thing the whole time and never put it up, I think. Man, I suck.
Oops.
Sorry, Matt. Yeah, great job by Matt, too. That was fantastic. KC,
Questions.
appreciate it. Hope you have a good day as well. And that'll do it. We'll see you guys on the live stream in the morning. Again, without Bill, but we'll be back on Wednesday. We'll do our best. We'll do our best.
The birthday hangover tomorrow.